thank you. Can we settle down, please? We're going to move on to our questions. Our first question is from Zinaisha Zubair from Sydney, Sussex. Come up and ask a question. Remember, you have the right of response.
I have quite a simple question for you. Now, I know you've debated Dean Withers on Jubilee before. I was wondering why you now refuse to engage with further debate with him.
Wait, hold on. First of all, he's coming on my show this summer, and let me get this straight. I flew 5,000 miles across the world to have you ask why I'm not going to debate a left-wing YouTuber.
Well, I mean, he continuously tries to get your attention at your campus.
Yeah, right. Yeah, again,
you just ignore him.
I've debated him twice in the last calendar year. He's coming on my show this summer. Let me be clear. I came to Cambridge to have you ask me that.
I mean, you talk about freedom. I'm just using my freedom of speech to ask you a simple question. No, you seem to be dodging it for some reason.
No, I've debated him twice in the last year, and he's coming on this summer for a long-form discussion. But is this what I can expect?
Yeah, he's making videos about you avoiding him on your campus debates.
Right. So let me tell you how this works. I do a campus event like at Texas A&M University. I rent it out. I'm there for 3 hours. He shows up demanding to come up to the mic immediately, cutting in line of other students. It's not Joe Biden's America anymore where you can just cut in line and get whatever you want. So therefore, I say, excuse me, Dean, we'll talk at another time. He makes this YouTube video as if I'm scared to debate him, even though I debated him twice in the last year. Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for coming, Charlie. My question to you, I mean, I'm a medical student, and so I'm going to throw out the big A word. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I want to hear from you what your opinion is on abortion.
Life begins at conception.
But about abortion specifically, why do you think abortion's wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong?
I agree. Okay, so this is where we get to the question, right? Because what is it about murder you say is wrong? Like, why is murder wrong?
Well, because it's a human being, not just because it has consciousness or because it's of a certain age, because it's a human.
Well, what is it that gives human being this moral worth?
Not its consciousness necessarily.
I didn't say it's consciousness.
I know that. I can imagine it's because it is a human being, because it has a soul.
And what is this soul? Where does this come from? This idea that it's...
Exactly. I mean, again, the Greeks postulated that it is the entirety of your being. Okay, you guys can laugh. I mean, it's true. I mean, every civilization has had a different belief, but agreed upon ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate of my country articulates, is that every human being is more than just matter, it's more than just a clump of cells, but it also has an invisible element to you that will live beyond you.
Fine, so, I mean, can you say that comes from the Bible, or where else do you get that from?
Ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West. And again, the Declaration of Independence mentions God 4 times. The founders were explicitly believed, not in a secular morality, but a divinely given one, of at least this idea that there is a God and you are not him. And let me ask you, what is the first stage of human development?
So I mean, this is the thing, right? We can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at birth, conception, sorry. The only thing that happens at conception is these 2 cells fuse.
Right? No, DNA is created. A zygote.
DNA is not created.
A DNA, no, that's not true. The DNA, DNA coding at the zygote. Hold on, time out.
Let me finish.
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Charlie,
does a zygote have a unique marker?
You have to let me speak. You have to
answer it, yes or no. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Define a unique marker.
Meaning, can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under a deoxyribonucleic acid analysis? Can you?
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh, so it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not created. DNA is not created. You have, the father has his own genome, the mother has her own genome. They fuse. This is why you have the same characteristics, similar ones to your mother, similar ones to your father. That's why you have similar characteristics to your siblings. DNA is not created, right? So when you ask me, where does a human being come from? I can say to you, it starts at conception, but all conception is these 2 cells joining, right? But these 2 cells were created, the mother's cells were created long before, they were created when she was a fetus. So there's none of this DNA being produced, right? So we can't establish, the only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse. Now this idea that means that for some reason, suddenly that moral worth comes in, but it wasn't there before when you had these 2 cells who had half the DNA, But suddenly there's a
Correct.
flip of a
Yes, something
switch.
magical happens at that.
It's not magical, Charlie. We know about this.
Well, hold on.
Charlie.
Time out. Hold on.
Charlie, I promise you, I'm not trying to score points. I'm not trying to score points on you. This is
We
genuine.
call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life development outside of the womb.
We call it the miracle of life because yes, it's something beautiful. The ability to
exactly.
form a new
Magical.
It's not. You say magical as in it's beautiful. It's an incredible thing that happens, of course. But it's not incredible in the sense we don't know what's going on. There's no new DNA coming out of nowhere.
Hold on, but time out. Isn't there a separate DNA though than the mother? Like
Yes, from the father.
okay, yes, but it's not the father's DNA either. A new coding is created.
Charlie.
You are a blend of the two. And so when did your life begin?
Okay, so
When did your life
my
begin?
life. I mean, again, this comes from what you define as where life starts. You can say life starts at conception, but I'm telling you, I believe that's just an arbitrary point, right? That's just the moment these two cells fuse. Now, you say about this mother thing. So the way DNA is arranged in a cell is it's arranged in chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired up, so you have one from the mother, one from the father, typically in a healthy individual, right? Now, you can take those maternal chromosomes out and you can find that this is who the person's mother is, and you can do the same with the father. Now, the reason you are different to your mother and father is because some of those chromosomes express genes that are different from each other, and so those genes interact, and that's what gives rise to you, right? But there's no space for any kind of moral framework to come into that until you consider that a human being is capable of consciousness and of suffering. But if you take that out of the equation, the fact that these two DNA, whatever they call molecules, right? These two DNA molecules are fusing, that does not suddenly flip a switch that attributes moral worth to that individual. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to score points. I'm trying to
By
understand.
what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong. Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion, just so you can understand? I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman who has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So by what moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard from?
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
Well, hold on. So you do believe in objective morality.
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative
So if you
feeling.
can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you mean if you can't?
You can't feel the pain, is it okay to inflict the pain?
In the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. Something is only a moral question if it affects someone's well-being.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. That if it doesn't affect their well-being, so dementia patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients.
Charlie,
Alzheimer's patients don't really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution because they can't technically suffer?
I'll respond. So, can you imagine a scenario where we lived in a society where we killed people when they suffered from dementia, were incapable of suffering, and we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
Charlie, it's not slaughter. That's the problem.
Hold on. If it's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord of another human life, again, we have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding.
No, that's
or uniqueness.
That's what I'm denying. I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fused together, to use your terminology,
yes,
that is where the process of human
accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a close?
The process of human development objectively begins at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to?
No, thank you. Yeah, you can finish.
The process of development begins from the moment the sperm is being generated in the father, the moment the eggs are being generated in the mother. To say that suddenly the moral worth switches on when they fuse doesn't make any sense. That's just a point you've taken.
It makes perfect sense, because that is when your journey as a human being, when the sperm and egg were separate, you were not yet a fused human being. You were not created uniquely.
DNA existed.
An image.
Your DNA existed. I thought.
Well, no, the parts of your DNA existed. Your DNA did not exist. It's like saying that we have a full car just because we have all the parts. It was not yet put together until conception happens and the zygote was formed. Thank you. I think we have to
Can we move on to the next
Thank you very
question,
much.
please? Thank you.
You know about Patriot Mobile and what they stand for. I've talked to you about their commitment to family, faith, and freedom. But have you made the switch yet? You'll get exceptional nationwide coverage on America's best networks without sacrificing your values. Get unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, and even a backup line on your phone. Patriot can do it all. Switching is easy. Keep your number, your phone, or get a new one. Go to patriotmobile.com/Kirk25 or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Kirk25 for a free month of service.
So first of all, my first question, or my only question is, you've advocated and applauded the reducing and removing of public funding for universities on the grounds they promote ideological biases. Given that universities play a critical role in driving national innovation, research, and upward mobility, especially through federally funded grants, how do you reconcile this position with the broader societal value that higher education institutes offer?
Well, they can, but in Harvard's case, for example, who's getting their funding pulled, they have a $50 billion endowment. Just so we are clear, in pounds, that would be like what, 42 billion, 45 billion? I mean, I'm trying to learn the conversion rate here. I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of money. They can either use their endowments to fund it, and if you have certain behavior and certain practices, then you should not get federal funding. Harvard is in direct violation of the United States Supreme Court fair admissions case, which says you cannot discriminate people based on the color of their skin. Go ahead.
But isn't the whole point of it, you can't use endowments like that. The point of
They can.
The point of an endowment is to manage a fund through perpetuity. Cambridge has an endowment, and that endowment allows professorships to be funded, to allow for research into sciences. That's the whole point of an endowment.
You just said it funds research into sciences. That's what they should do with their monstrosity of an endowment.
Yeah, but the endowment is...
The interest alone on their endowment could fund the entire research and development budget of most Ivy League schools. They have a $50 billion endowment. Even like a podunk money manager in America can earn a 7 to 10% investment in the markets the last couple of years. That's $5 billion of returns that endowment could then reinvest in whatever they want. Instead, Harvard has become a hedge fund with a radical school attached. And I think that's very wrong for U.S. taxpayers to continue to subsidize.
But it's not just Harvard. You've called on colleges being a scam. You've constantly attacked higher education institutes. You've attacked liberal arts as a scam. For example, like a lot of conservatives, Peter Thiel studied philosophy at Stanford. Ronald Reagan studied sociology. A lot of them did study liberal arts, and you keep undermining these august institutions, which have provided a lot for society. Like society's backbones have been universities and higher learning institutes, and yet you keep attacking them.
Well, they used to be largely, but again, I don't want to speak too much about this country, but in America, they don't represent fundamental American values. You know, Peter Thiel, after he graduated Stanford, wrote an entire book criticizing college and then paying people not to go to college. So Peter Thiel, who spoke at this very school, and you guys had a great conversation with him, do you know that he believes college is such a scam? He would pay people $100,000 a year for 20 years straight not to go to college. So not exactly a good argument in your favor. Peter Thiel, who got a philosophy degree, made billions of dollars, and has now forked over tens of millions of dollars for people not to go to U.S. universities and colleges.
Yeah, but it's not just Peter Thiel.
I know, but you mentioned him, I didn't. But to complete the point is that...
Thomas went to, did liberal arts.
Look, in America, there are far too many people going to college. We need people to become welders, electricians, people that work with their hands. There is a major trade deficit problem in the United States. We have 11 million well-paying jobs that we cannot find enough labor for, and instead we have a lot of people going to university to go study North African lesbian poetry. It might sound good. but it doesn't necessarily A, either development the content, the character, or the development of the soul, and B, it does not necessarily also give you the skills necessary. Some college is good for you. I'm a big proponent of Hillsdale College.
Guys, can you please be quiet?
I believe Hillsdale College is America's greatest college, and I'm a big proponent of that. But I would ask a question. In your own words, what do you believe the purpose of college is?
It's critical engagement. But coming back to your point on lesbian poetry or whatever.
North African lesbian poetry.
North African lesbian poetry. So in the morning I actually had a lecture on development policy, and one of the key authors on sort of development economics is Nussbaum, who talks about how liberal arts sort of engages you critically. And one could argue, even North African lesbian poetry, I don't think that's a degree, I think that's just a module within a degree.
Maybe.
Yeah. That makes you
The fact you don't
engage.
know shows how rotten to the core universities have become.
You're taking one example and telling conservatives and hordes of young people that college is a scam. College isn't a scam. I mean, I took my mum down to a pub just down the road where Watson and Crick announced DNA. College,
Guys, can we... Okay, wait one second.
if college is a scam, then DNA wouldn't have been discovered. With cancer research...
Yes, hold on a second. Yes, you're right. At this specific university, you guys split the atom. You had Sir Isaac Newton. You had some of the greatest minds of the West. I don't know about what's happening here, and I'm not going to criticize it. But at most colleges in the West, they've gone away from places of inquiry and appreciation of what is good and what is beautiful and into this incessant oppression Olympics of trying to deconstruct the core canon that is our birth certificate. I don't know if that's happening here. It's certainly...
That's not true, though.
In America, it is objectively true, okay?
That isn't true.
Okay, no, first of all, they removed Western civilization as a core course in Stanford in the 1990s. They tried to bring it back with petitions, and the university said, no, teaching Western civilization is racist. Shakespeare is not taught at major... Let me finish. Shakespeare is not taught at major universities across America because it's deemed as racist. I talked to some students earlier in the English department, and they said, hey, I'm studying Shakespeare. I said, that's refreshing because in a lot of U.S. schools, they don't teach Shakespeare because he's called racist. You would be surprised at how wretched to the core some of these colleges have become in America.
If you look at the Global Innovation Index, America, which is predominantly a lot of their majors are in humanities and liberal arts, they're number 2 on the Global Innovation Index. China is somewhere near 13. If you look at every metric, Fortune 1000 CEOs, 40% did humanities and liberal arts. There is a value in liberal arts, yet you're criticizing
Yes,
it.
and I'm going to keep on criticizing it. Also, the vast majority of liberal arts graduates do not respect freedom of speech. That is an empirical poll. They increasingly do not have reverence or gratitude for the United States of America. They don't care about the core values of the U.S. Constitution. If you want to go to college, that's fine. But in our country, 40% of kids that enter college do not graduate. The kids that do graduate, half of them end up getting jobs that do not require any sort of college degree. There are all these made-up degrees. In America, I know it's different than the experience you might be having here. Your tutoring system here is objectively great. I'm glad you guys have it. The class sizes in America are 400 to 500 students, sometimes per introductory course, to go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt, study things that don't matter, to find jobs that do not exist. And so let me just make one final point, is that, of course, some people should be going to college. But generally in the United States of America, it has become a racket of debt. It has become a burden and a place where we're actually not putting our best and brightest into the job field itself to be equipped for the jobs of the future. Instead, we have a lot of baristas at Starbucks with philosophy degrees.
You also mentioned indoctrination. As per the Oxford Dictionary's definition of indoctrination, it means that you take a belief and you can't critically observe that belief. Turning Point USA has over 30,000 chapters, 3,000 chapters across US universities. So are you arguing that students, including conservatives, lack the critical thinking skills to sort of decide political ideologies, political beliefs, that they're so dumbfounded that they can't decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong, and that your whole premise is on the fact that students like us, we lack critical thought in deciding what is taught in schools?
Again, I'm not using Cambridge as the school that I think of, but in America, we have millions of people that go to these massive state schools that have humanities departments that are not reading the great books, that do not have a tutoring system, that are unfortunately laced with the most anti-Western thought imaginable. I don't really quite following what one thing has to do with the other, why 3,000 chapters has something to do with your indictment. Maybe you can clarify, but I think we're out of time.
You can clarify, but then we'll move on.
In general, colleges should be a place that lift you up to what is good, true, and beautiful. To study the great things that have been, to develop your soul and develop your character. Character in Greek literally means like tattoo, to etch within you. Far too often colleges create ungrateful, pessimistic, and nihilistic revolutionaries that want to tear down what was before and instead have no alternative to build the future, and the West is suffering because of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I disagree, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you, Charlie. I hope you can understand first rule. I'm a little nervous. There's a very real chance I could wake up tomorrow, front page of YouTube. Charlie Kirk owns Man Bun Idiot with facts and logic. So
Destroys.
yeah, destroys. Okay, so my question is, I agree that stable monogamous relationships often produce the best outcomes for society, but if that structure really works for everyone, why do we consistently see societies, once they become safer and more prosperous, move away from traditional monogamy? And why do so many marriages still end in divorce, even among people who generally try to make it work? And just one final framing there. If you believe in free markets because they are decentralized and they adapt to reality without top-down control, and given the individual ability to form healthy long-term pair bonds very significantly with factors like genetics and ecologically calibrated attachment styles, why do you reject top-down control in economics but not extend that same rejection to human behavior in terms of marriage?
Okay, so the first one, the second law of thermodynamics answers your question, is that it's the law of decay. Societies tend to decay against the roots that created them. For example, as a side note, here in this country, you guys invented the idea of free speech. You brought it to the world. You guys do not have free speech in this country anymore. 30 people a day are arrested in the UK for inflammatory social media posts. Someone by the name of Lucy Connolly is currently facing prison time for a Facebook post that was critical of migrants. It is normal, unfortunately, for civilizations to get away from how they once operated and how they once were. Now, to your question, does that answer the first part of your question? You were saying, why do they get away from monogamy? I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
I would say I don't feel that that's a full answer.
Okay, so you're asking why do they get away from what works? Is that correct?
Yes. Well, why do societies make this change once they become more prosperous?
Oh yeah, okay. I mean, because prosperity leads to degeneracy, for sure. That would be the answer. And so once you are prosperous, you tend to no longer have the moral guardrails or the limitations. Let's just say you no longer have delayed gratification because you have instant gratification because you have a surplus of goods, and then you have a decline of a transcendent moral order. The second part of the question, can you remind me, please, what the second question was? About markets?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, for example, I believe in intervention in markets if there is something that is improper morally. So, for example, I do not believe that you should be able to scam your neighbor or have misleading advertising because I believe in a transcendent moral standard, and the same goes for my personal views on marriage.
Okay, so I think we largely agree on the foundation. I'd like to propose something that you might like to think about. So, firstly, I absolutely acknowledge that, again, if everyone in society was able to maintain healthy long-term pair bonds, that would be best. Again, there's strong data showing that independent of socioeconomic factors, broken homes are some of the strongest predictors of poor life outcomes.
We totally agree.
Yes. And even, I'm not sure if many people here are aware of this, but if you track, as countries become more socially egalitarian, somewhat surprisingly, rates of female depression and anxiety also spike disproportionately. So I think one of the problems here is that when you try and impose more absolutism, inevitably, again, due to variance in attachment issues, due to industrialized culture, absent parents, screens, raising kids, around 50% of adults in the West develop attachment disorders, which make it very difficult to maintain long-term pair bonds. And then additionally, you have things like variation in oxytocin receptors, in density and shape, also in vasopressin. There are going to be, even if there's 5% of people who feel that these rules really do not fit them, they will push back. And this will create ideologies that then grow into more wider appealing ideologies, which then, leads to this change. I think this is what happened in the sexual revolution. It started with a push for female autonomy, and then it was almost morphed into a really exaggerated expression of pushing for maximizing individual freedom. And I think that when you try and impose moral absolutism this way, it just inevitably causes pushback. And I think if you were to, as someone with a platform, instead say, hey, monogamy is great, it works best for most people, but I also understand there are some people it doesn't work so well for, more people would hear the message that you want to push.
Okay, thank you for that. That's an interesting. I've actually never gotten that question before. It's very thoughtful. Would you say you're against moral absolutism then?
Yes, I would.
Are you against that absolutely?
No, I'm very open to having my mind changed. And
so it's not an absolute thing.
Well, I'm against moral absolutism.
Are you against moral absolutism? Absolutely.
No.
Okay, so then you're consistent. So
I think
it's all just kind of.
I think
it's preference, not. It's about preference. Then you could just basically do whatever you prefer. There is no transcendent moral order.
Well, I think what you're doing, though, is slightly unfairly putting me into a loop, because I'm very open to having my mind changed.
No, that's fine. What I'm saying, though, is that by definitionally, and this is something that will keep on coming back, you must choose what moral standard we live by. I'm very clear as to what moral standard. The lie of the West, of modernity, the last 30 years, is that we're going to have you live and let live, and there will be no moral standard. That itself is a moral standard, and it's a really bad one. And to your point, that yes, it creates more suffering, it creates more despair. And no, I disagree with what you say, and I respect the heart of which you're saying it. I will say that I have a moral obligation not to accommodate when people fall short, but instead try to lift them up towards the standard that is true and that I know that works.
So where I'd push this is I'd ask you describe people falling short when they fail to engage in long-term monogamy. What do you think causes that? Why do you think some people struggle?
Many reasons. Economic is one of them, but the biggest is the death of religion and the death of Christianity in the West. As America, I'll just talk about America. The UK is unfortunately far less churched than America. But as America has become less churched, so many of these social ills rise.
So one thing I would say, I study the evolution of behavior, in particular sexual romantic behavior. If you track all the different hunter-gatherer cultures that we can study, and we track how agriculture shapes things, you see that ecological conditions really reliably predict the prevalence of monogamy, certain marriage systems. And what I think is what we refer to as attachment issues. They seem to be an ecological calibration to an environment. In environments that are more unstable, it's less optimal for an individual to grow up with a tendency to rely on long-term pair bonds. And I think there's a mismatch with the modern world, again, coming back to industrialization. There are so many people who raise kids as absent parents. Daycare is massively linked to attachment issues. This then causes people to struggle to bond long-term. And then again, coming back to the genetic part, there's again real research showing that especially vasopressin mutations and oxytocin mutations, some people really just do not have the proclivity for this.
What brings stability? Because you say stability is a good thing, then what would bring stability?
So first of all, I would say we had what you might consider stability in the previous century, and then it became unstable. And then things...
Why?
I'm saying because moral absolutism was imposed.
Moral absolutism was lost. You see, modernity rose. We started to teach our kids moral relativism, and we got rid of moral absolutes. So it's the opposite.
So why was it lost? Was it lost because people stopped pushing from top down?
This question to a close.
Why was it lost? That's a question for far smarter minds. I can only tell you that it was. In America, it's honestly one of the worst decisions, not just worst ideas ever, which is modern feminism, largely from Betty Friedan's feminist mystique, which acted as if every woman who's in a monogamous marriage in the States is in some sort of tyrannical environment. And it has led to the women of the West being the most miserable, most depressed, most suicidal, most prescription drug addicted cohort on the planet. And I think we need to appropriately challenge feminism and tell young women that it's okay, in fact, it's courageous to get married and have children again. I think it would solve a lot of our problems.
Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. That's because Asana is where humans and AI coordinate work together. AI can spot roadblocks.
So I'm a feminist. My question is about the role of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are the material benefits of that?
Well, thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't even want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes. An
is a woman?
adult human female, it's a biological state of being that is also socially experienced. Can I please elucidate just one example of that social experience?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and that in that tribe, you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female that has a biological reality, but it's also social experience, right? So I don't...
Yeah, it's super easy. Like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people who have a prostate are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So women can have prostates. Got it. Okay. So you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So, yes, men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue...
We're talking about the same feminism, though, just make sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, men also experience harm from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt. Right? So, are we understanding that there are, patterns of power? So, I would also fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure. You think women are happier than they were 40 years ago?
I think I would have a few responses to that. I think that women report more stress and dissatisfaction today because, not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic labor in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So, for example, studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s, we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
Yeah. That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny.
We've always been...
No, hold on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I think that
Forget
encourages...
complaining. Materially, women are killing themselves more. Why is that?
I think that even if both men and women have become unhappier, men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Of course, obviously, but feminism is the glaring thing in front of us, where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates down, we have unhappiness up. And we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said, you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control. And all of a sudden, women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it and we should support it, and we should say it means nothing if you're going to go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.
I think I would bring 2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as the cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that it's certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social acceptance of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries has increased, which causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth doesn't correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more compelling reasons for a decline in happiness than an increase in freedoms, because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Okay, so if that's true, why is it? Do you agree that the happiest women of the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but I think there are certain studies
and objectively we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Does tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of?
Again, it's a little bit of a one-liner. The happy and the grateful. The happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, of which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side note, you would agree, objectively, study after study, survey after survey, that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated at the same age.
So I also don't think that happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making. So I don't think smiles per capita is a particularly convincing way to measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous. I think we should maximize agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters because it's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's the moral thing, because if we can't prove the material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also self-reported studies is a really flawed way to do psychology. It's the week before my university exams right now, and I'm standing here explaining the basic methodology behind survey collection in sociology, which you don't even think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable. But so would a Palestinian child who's been torn to smithereens. How are we going to measure?
You would say extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but seriously, like, but hold on. I mean, like, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world, and yet they're way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here. Because the women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have. The women in the West have cats, and they have good jobs, and the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine, and they have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women from realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just connecting.
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well, it's fine. Sure, then you can answer without it. Fair enough. Would you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checks extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same answer?
No, again, so I fully, if you want to talk about how Islam mistreats women, we could talk all day long. Like, I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good. So we agree. That,
absolutely.
We actually have
agree
agreement.
on many things.
Then we should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad, and if you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians into the UK either.
Hold on. So hold on a second. Hold on. That's funny. Hold on. Can you show me what would your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women, right?
America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We had a female woman vice president. We had a female vice president, a female speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
In Rwanda, female representation in government supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Did women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure. I don't think it is. Like, is it? Like, I don't know, actually. It's not. So, again, we were just talking about Islam. It's a little bit of a side note, but you must be morally clear, because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again, this is very important, which is, I'm not here to require you to do anything or not. I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true regardless. The women of the West are miserable, and they're miserable for a reason, because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else and get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at 38 years old with a big flat in London, and they're miserable. And we should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Yeah, okay. I think I'd bring two just final points to this. First one is just really intuitive, right? Which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave, and in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than in more conservative countries, including America. So if your metric is happiness,
just use satisfaction surveys. You just told me they're BS.
So are satisfaction surveys bullshit or not? Because you told me they're bullshit.
Do you acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? You just told me that they're BS. Do you think they're objective? We can use that as data?
I don't think that
yes or no?
It is the only sole data set, but it is a data set that necessarily
you told me they're so flawed and you self-report. Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data, I am correct. And you are right. When you have paid family leave, you are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At Turning Point USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child. I think there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think the Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that, because the greatest thing that is plaguing the West is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad because we won't have a future. It's also bad because the present is awfully miserable for too many women as well.
Okay, in which case I think we get...
Do I start bringing this to a close, please?
Okay, I think just one final thing, which is that in which case we get to a really interesting argument about what parts of womanhood can be demarcated to the social and what kinds of womanhood can be demarcated to biological. So, for example, my anatomy is demarcated to the biological, but the fact that I might potentially be a better nurturer than a man, I would demarcate that to the social, you might demarcate that to the biological, in which case we have differing moral scales of value. I would ask why we should necessarily prioritize your moral scale of value, which prioritizes things like the birth rate, when in actual fact there are various other moral scales of value. And if you yourself are a free market American, American, why is it the case that you would not, like the previous speaker noted,
I've already answered.
extend personal freedoms towards all spheres, including a private sphere?
I believe in absolute truth claims, and it's absolutely wrong and bad when a society stops having kids to replace their own population, and then you have to import the third world, and you become the third world. It's bad.
I disagree, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kirk, you have supported Donald Trump. Is this fair to say?
I'm sorry.
You've supported Donald Trump and have been quite vocal about this.
Supportive of Donald Trump. Yes, sir. That's right.
One of his main domestic policy agendas has been DOGE, trying to drain the swamp, get rid of the grift, ensure that we have a more functioning, more efficient federal budget. According to the Financial Times yesterday, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, among others, have cut roughly $37 billion from the federal government budget. This is a contested figure, of course. Some of these have already been paid out, etc. It's likely to be lower, but they've assumed about $37 billion. On the top of this, he has engaged in and tried to push tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy that would amount to several $100 billion in terms of tax breaks for the wealthy. Along with this, he has cut money-making institutions, such as the Department of Natural Reserves and all this kind of thing, that bring in about $40 billion, it costs about $5 billion, and the IRS, which brings in a huge amount of money relative to the amount of money it spends. With all of this in mind, is it not fair to say Donald Trump has engaged in a smash and grab for the ultra-rich, for the billionaires that stock his cabinet, for all these people against the modern Americans that you claim to represent?
Okay, how much do you know about his suggested tax plan?
Pardon?
His suggested tax plan?
Some. I wouldn't say I am the world's
He has
foremost
suggested
expert.
to raise taxes on the wealthy 37% to 40%.
What about federal
income tax?
Capital gains.
He's the first. Capital gains will stay where it is, but he's the first Republican president that we have since George H.W. Bush that's recommending to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy. Number two, a lot of those cuts, I wish would be even more than $37 billion, have not yet been full realized. In America, again, I don't know how applicable this will be, but the people watching online, he's advocating for no tax on tips. So when you get tipped, we have a big tipping culture in America. He's advocating for no tax.
I can understand where you're coming from here, Charlie. Can you see where it's popular on the face of it? Donald Trump and Republicans of his ilk claim that the federal budget is something we should be very considered about, and the debt, and the cost of maintenance on that debt. Even if we don't regard any sense of tax increases or tax reduce on the ultra-wealthy, the fact that he is engaging in and defunding money-making institutions such as the IRS exacerbate and increase this problem of debt dependency that the United States has. It is now the largest single problem in the federal budget. Why would you support a man that is exacerbating this issue he claims to care about so much?
Right, I was answering the question. I mean, first of all, his suggested budget cuts $1.5 trillion. I wish it should be even more.
That is not true.
No, it is. It's okay, you could look it up.
$1.5 trillion would be the equivalent of cutting the entire American military budget and a half. Where is he getting... This is number essentially pulled out
again,
of,
it's $1.5
some would say, where the sun doesn't shine.
Again, the way that we do budgeting in America in a reconciliation process is over multiple budget cycles. So we're doing 3 budgets this year. I don't know how interested people will be in this.
Okay.
But it's wonky. But again, it literally has $1.5 trillion through this reconciliation process with the largest middle class tax cut in history. I wish the cuts would be even more. Also, to say he's just doing the pandering of the ultra wealthy, he's advocating for raising taxes on the ultra wealthy. We'll see if that materializes.
That is an income tax. The ultra wealthy generally do not take a large portion of their income from an income tax and take it instead from capital gains.
Well,
fundamentally, increasing an 8% tax on Elon Musk, who takes like $10,000 as a salary or something stupid, will not make any material difference. This is a straw man argument, and it is obfuscating from the fundamental issue. This is a government for and run by oligarchs.
It's funny you say that. You do know the richest people in America vote Democrat almost 85%.
That is fundamentally not true. The richest...
Can I finish? Okay, again, 9 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America vote Democrat. If you earn more than $300,000 US a year, you vote Democrat at a 75% clip. I mean, it is so overwhelmingly the Democrat Party is the party of the rich. Secondly, though, he's going out of his way to cut taxes for working people. No tax on tips, no tax on overtimes, the extension of the middle class tax relief. Again, I don't know how interesting this is for a UK audience, but more broadly, President Trump is doing the impossible, something I hope your government does. He is trying to cut taxes for middle class people while also trying to balance the budget. I wish he would cut taxes even more. It's an ambitious project, and I support him completely in that endeavor.
The extent to which he's attempting to balance the budget is not necessarily true, given that the budget is currently at a higher deficit this current year, as it was at any point under Biden, or I think any other president in history. I would also point to the fact that suggesting that Democrats overwhelmingly vote, wealthy people overwhelmingly vote Democrats is true to a point. After a certain income, they overwhelmingly vote Republican because the tax breaks, kind of business interest and all this that Republicans offer them. Given he is attempting, in your own words, to balance the budget, again, coming back to the root issue, why is he defunding the IRS, which brings in money? Why is he defunding national parks, which makes money? Why is he engaging in all of this if he is trying to balance the budget?
First of all, some of them...
Can I just finish my statement? Is it perhaps because when you defund the IRS, the wealthiest people, the people that fund his super PACs, the people that buy his Trump coin, the people that are in fact in his cabinet, generally pay a lower de facto rate of tax because the IRS can no longer fund to actually investigate and audit them?
Okay, so by defunding, again, the IRS is our tax collection agency. If you guys don't know, it's the Internal Revenue Service. I don't know what it's called here in the UK.
HMRC.
Yeah, sure. So the
favorite.
The equivalent is number two, that you're not totally wrong about one portion of this, which is that more agents do equal more revenue. You have to have a tension, though, of do you want to grow the IRS by 87,000 extra agents, which Joe Biden did? He's trying to peel that back. Do you believe in, or do you know the Laffer curve? Are you familiar with it? It's this,
I can't say.
It's a belief that when you lower
student.
taxes, you can actually increase revenues because compliance goes up and economic growth goes up. We saw this in the United States during Ronald Reagan, during a massive tax cut. Again, it's called the Laffer curve. And so that's actually debated. Just because you cut taxes, you're going to run a deficit. But you're not totally incorrect. You are correct. And I will admit this point, that when you have less IRS agents, you are going to have less revenue. And I think that it's a good thing generally to have less IRS agents looking into the particulars of Americans. And we have a history over the last 10 years right now.
Especially the richest Americans.
Well, not necessarily. That's the thing, is that the richest Americans actually are able to hire the tax attorneys and the accountants to get through IRS issues and get to settlement. What we see in the data is it actually ends up with middle-class Americans because they do not have the same infrastructure to deal with a very intense IRS agent.
All right, I'm going to say one last thing. I think I've taken too much of your time. I think it is interesting to suggest that Donald Trump is the only president that is going to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy. I've already pointed out the potential flaws. The potential flaws in that. I would also draw the audience's attention to the fact that Donald Trump is overwhelmingly backed by, supported by, funded by, and in fact stacked his cabinet, as I've mentioned, by billionaires. And you yourself in Telling Point USA relies relatively heavily on the ultra wealthy to give their donations.
Somewhat.
For example, Foster Friess, although sadly departed. I know. But
we also have.
When you were founding, you were overtly reliant on this. So I would just like to point out that inconsistency, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thanks.
It's not what you make, it's what you keep. Patriot Software can lower your costs for accounting and payroll software. Keep your money in your pocket.
Keep your time and money.
Thank you. A very, very short question. Israel versus Hamas, good guy versus bad guy. Russia versus Ukraine. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy?
Both are bad, one is worse.
Which way round?
Russia is worse than Ukraine.
Okay, so why haven't we pursued that?
What do you mean?
Well, it seems to me that in the whole of the current US proposition, that Ukraine is being the bad guy.
In what way? We funded Ukraine upwards to $200 billion.
Absolutely. But
we just signed a mineral deal with Ukraine, not Russia.
Yeah, but you are expecting Ukraine to give up 20% of its territory to someone who invaded it.
Well, is Crimea part of Russia or Ukraine?
Ukraine.
That's where we don't agree.
Well, I'm afraid that's part of international treaty. That's not up for grabs.
Well, it's interesting. I mean,
that's
hold on. I mean, even Zelensky has said he's willing to give up Ukraine.
No. America signed the agreement that gave Ukraine Crimea.
Right.
When the Soviet Union ended.
Right. It was done. First of all, it never should have been done. It was largely ceremonial. But however, it was annexed under Obama. Yes, and it was a mistake. and it should be given back to Russia as a sign of good gesture to end this conflict. But who's currently controlling Crimea? Where was the Russian Navy headquartered in World War II? Where was the end of World War II signed? This is very important.
I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying that if we're being logical on what has happened, that you are now arguing against that flow. And I don't understand it. Because actually, why is Ukraine the bad guy?
No, I said they're bad. They're not the bad guy.
Yeah, well, you said they were both bad, but one was more bad
Correct,
than the other.
yes.
So why is Ukraine bad?
Well, there's a lot wrong with Ukraine. First of all, they're not a democracy. Zelensky refuses to hold an election.
Well, no, he can't hold an election.
Oh, wait, did Churchill hold an election during the war?
Because under his constitution...
Hold on, Lincoln held an election during the war. That's not true. He can call an election. He can call a snap election. He's full dictator of the country.
No.
Because he knows that the people of Ukraine would kick him out immediately because he's deeply unpopular. In fact, if he wanted to show a statement to the world, he would call an election and win by 80% and say, see, I'm super popular. So that's number one. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with a person being propped up as a government we're sending $200 billion to that refuses even to face his voters.
Okay, I can't agree with you factually on that at all.
Okay.
I mean, constitutionally, Ukraine is not able to hold an election because it's under military law at the moment, and that's just a matter of fact.
Again, he can, as a prime minister or president, he could do whatever he wants.
He can't.
Okay,
He
we're going to just go back
sign
and
an
forth with each
executive
other.
order and change their constitution.
Okay.
Neither can the American president either. So hopefully there's a bit of...
He could even do a ceremonial election to see where he actually stands with the people.
I think we call those opinion polls.
Yes, and they're very negative.
Firmly ahead in the opinion.
Again, but you would agree that a person that holds on to power without the election of the sovereign is pretty questionable.
No, not in those circumstances.
Okay, then we disagree.
No, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But give me another reason why you...
They are the most corrupt country in Europe that never even met the most remote standards of joining NATO. Do not know where a lot of this money is going.
I don't disagree that there is a problem with corruption, but the most corrupt country in Europe, are you sure about that?
I'd have to think. I'd have to double or triple think about that, but they're very corrupt.
Okay, so that's a little bit doubtful. It's not absolute.
Well, I mean, well,
there's plenty of corruption around. I mean, let's face it. We are talking about comparison with some of the states you're doing business with in the Gulf.
Oh, of course, but we're not giving them money; they're giving us money. That's a difference, right? Saudi Arabia.
Oh, so it's fine.
Well, hold on a
so
second.
It's morally acceptable to take money from corrupt people.
Well, hold on. First of all, as far as morally acceptable, you do what's best in the benefit of your country. And so, for example, we were allied with Russia during the Second World War, and I'm glad we were. And I would ask you,
don't forget,
how much money is too much money to send to Ukraine? We're at $200 billion right now.
I don't think you have to send any more money to Ukraine.
We agree.
I think you have to agree to support them as a free country and perhaps sell them weapons, like you're very happy to sell weapons to less free countries. And I think Europe will pick up the slack, as we ought to. And I don't disagree with some of the comments about Europe not looking after its own security. I just don't get this approach, which was supposedly to end the war quickly, which now seems to be elongating it. And in doing so, it's throwing up a smokescreen of very variable facts, if they are facts at all, about how things occurred, which actually isn't helping things. And if people can't see that Putin is stalling, I'm just really
I agree with you. I think he might be stalling.
And therefore, and I think even your president has acknowledged the fact that he thinks he might be stalling.
That's correct. So we don't have a disagreement there.
No, we don't. No,
we just have a disagreement about the efficacy of tactics, and we don't know. And I'm willing to say we could be wrong.
No. Oh well.
Of course, you could be wrong in life.
Yeah. I mean, we could all be wrong, but actually bringing that war to an end consistently actually isn't going very well. And I would just suggest to you that whatever tactics have been used are perhaps not the best, and they are certainly inconsistent with what's going on in the Middle East and how America has been treating parties in the Middle East. But I've had enough of your time.
Fair. No, that's a fair contention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And the final question that we've got time for today is from Sammy MacDonald from St John's College.
Good evening, Mr. Kirk. You've obviously devoted a lot of your life to electing, keeping in power Donald Trump,
And you did so partly because you said Trump would put Americans first and take them out of foreign conflicts. Should we see how that is going at the moment? Currently, Trump has just accepted a $400 million debt from Qatar, which we're assured is perfectly above board. Billions in arms are going to Saudi Arabia, which they're using to bomb and starve Yemeni children. Not sure how that's in the interest of the United States, but it might be in the interest of the $5.5 billion deal his failed sons are receiving. At the same time, this great president of peace has greenlit mass killings not just in Yemen, but in Gaza, where he greenlit an invasion called Operation Gideon's Chariot with the express aim of wiping out the Gazan population. You promised to put America first. Haven't you and your ilk sold America out?
No.
Well, I'm glad you have great intellectual substance and can answer. Because it's all the culture wars for you, isn't it? The second someone actually tells you what you're doing, which is bread.
Can you calm down a little bit? Like, just a little bit? Pounding the table, you're all over the place. No. You want me to go piece by piece? Or would you like me to talk slower?
I think you can.
Number one, Donald Trump is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Joe Biden gave them armaments.
That's going well, isn't it? It's going well.
Can you not interrupt me?
Well.
I allowed you to talk uninterrupted.
You're famous for not interrupting.
I haven't interrupted a single person here today. Can I speak uninterrupted, actually? Okay. He is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I believe we will see an end to that war. Number two, he's actually talking to Iran and discouraging Israel to strike the interior of Iran and has stopped many other international countries to do the same. Number three, can you give him credit for ending the Indian-Pakistan war?
Both of them said he didn't do that.
Well, hold on a second.
Let's go back.
No, that's important.
Russia, Ukraine.
Hold on, that's important.
Can I speak now?
Yes, but the Indian-Pakistan thing, you got to go deeper than that.
Let's go in order. Is a peace summit where the main person in question, Russia, doesn't show up, is that a success, Mr. Kirk?
I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure.
Is that a success?
Well, again, these are ongoing negotiations. And it's a lot better than when your Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, went alongside our Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, to Istanbul and unnecessarily blew up a potential Russian peace deal, which has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians, one of the great unnecessary wars of the modern era. Donald Trump believes in conversation and police through strength. He has been president for well over 120 to 130 days, and he has already ended a war between two nuclear conflicts of India-Pakistan. He has secured our own U.S. southern border while we were being invaded by foreign powers. And thirdly, he is brokering a potential settlement with Iran that will prevent a major escalation in the Middle East. And finally, it is very difficult, but I believe they'll get it done, that will finally see an end to the Russian-Ukrainian war.
I'm just going to disregard the enormous lies you just put out there about Russia and Ukraine. Okay. But do you really think leverage negotiations work if you cut off all your leverage and scream at one party in the Oval Office? Don't you think that has just emboldened Russia? Because look at the approach. Putin thinks so much of your glorious president, he can't even be asked to show up. You have elected, or help elect, somebody who is at best an idiot and at worst is deeply corrupt.
Okay, again, so Trump and Putin had a 2-hour phone call today. You'll acknowledge that's a good thing. The pursuit of peace can sometimes be a winding road, and it's a lot better than sending hundreds of billions of dollars further into the killing fields of eastern Ukraine, something that tragically both the UK government and the US government has been unnecessarily supporting for a couple of years. President Trump wants to see a brokerage, an ending of this settlement. I pray we can get it. It's very complicated because of the mess that Joe Biden left, which was an active kinetic war with a nuclear power sending American-made missiles into the interior of Russia. So President Trump has already ended a war. He's ended an invasion. He's only 130 days into this. And I believe, we do not know. At this point, we are merely speculating, which I think we should not spend our time doing that, because eventually one of us will be right. I believe we'll be right, and I believe we'll see an end to this war.
Can we just talk about 100 billions worth of weapons? Because you dodged my question on what was going on in the Middle East, where Trump has just signed enormous arms contracts with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar. And I noticed you ignored the fact that this might have had anything to do with the blatant corruption going on through the Trump coin and going on through giving the very competent sons of Donald Trump billions of investment from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is something that is directly embroiling Americans into conflict, but is importantly killing many innocent people. Those nations have been known to terrorize innocent civilian populations. So if you're coming to me and you're objecting to America selling weaponry, why are you defending shilling for the Saudis?
Well, hold on. One is sending weaponry, one is purchasing. Secondly, you do know that the biggest purchase that was announced was commercial airliner 737, $100 billion. We've heard of Qatar Airways. They purchased $100 billion of commercial airways. You are right, there were some weapons contracts. But I guess the question is, would you rather have Saudi Arabia buy weapons from America or China?
I'd rather they not have American weaponry at cut price rates.
See, I disagree.
But let's talk about Qatar for a second.
Okay, fine.
You mentioned Qatar. You've been talking a lot about Hamas and the evils of Hamas. Can I ask you, who is the main funder of Hamas?
Well, the Palestine. Well, the West actually funds Hamas.
Which state?
Well, Iran funds.
No.
Also,
where are the Hamas leaders?
And also
where are the Hamas
Qatar
leaders?
funds Hamas. It is a combination
So is
of
this a state we
international
should have
relief
a
organizations.
400 million jet with the President of the United States on it?
Hold on. First of all, it was not given to him personally. I understand the optics of it, but it was not given to him personally. It was given to the U.S. government. And under that standard, no U.S. government should ever receive any gifts from any foreign countries whatsoever. It's not given to him personally and not a violation of the.
Then why is he trying to transfer it to his personal library? He is.
Actually. Okay,
He
again,
is.
he sent out
You're
a
lying.
statement. This is way too in the weeds. If you want to keep on going, we can.
It's not in the weeds. It's a fundamental moral principle.
Okay, so under that fundamental moral principle, then, can you acknowledge, though, that President Trump is getting more done in a less period of time than any president we've seen, while our prior president did not even know what year he got elected? You understand the contrast here?
What aboutism again? I'm not a defender of Biden.
I'm not saying President Trump is far better than
You have to
predecessor.
defend the person you spent millions to elect.
I will defend every day of someone who ends an invasion.
That's all you do is
brings down the price of oil, who is revitalizing the American economy, who's brokering peace, who stopped the potential nuclear war, who is bringing Iran to the table and bringing Russia to the table. Someone who does not want armed conflicts with the greatest powers of our time. I will defend that endlessly.
Well, living
what are you
in
defending?
a fantasy world of your own creation. So it's quite hard to
You can
engage
say that,
with.
but then disprove
But
it.
let's check on how Trump is doing in terms of diplomacy. Look, with the war in the Middle East, do you think it was a defensible decision to tell the Israelis you wanted Trump Gaza to agree for Israel to invade the Gaza Strip and to continue to murder thousands of innocent children and civilians in a pointless war? Is that in America's interest? Is that in humanity's
Well,
interest?
first of all, you should know something about Trump. There's something, if you realize with Trump over the last 10 years, he is quite the social media user and uses hyperbolic language at times. But let me ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children in a futile.
Let's zero in on it.
There is no justification, Mr. Kerr, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West's security.
You've made that point, but
well, it's not a point; it's a moral truth, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish, I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War, on Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded.
In a world filled with nasal congestion, one hero rises. Afrin No Drip Allergy Sinus. Experience.
I'm no defender of the terrible pogrom that was launched against Jews on that day. but the justification for the death of innocents cannot be an infinite cycle of bloodlust. It cannot be killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians with a war with no end in sight, people who are not complicit in those atrocities. It cannot be bombing hospitals which children use. It cannot be bombing hospitals in which cancer patients are dying and starving in there. The deaths that have been inflicted, nobody knows the true toll, but somewhere between 50 and 100,000 people lie dead under the rubble. And what is left for Gaza except for to continue to suffer under Hamas? Because it turns out Netanyahu's political strategy has not worked. It has entrenched Hamas within the territories. To be a Christian, I would have thought, Mr. Kirk, would never have involved suggesting that the price for an atrocity must be an infinite cycle of bloodlust, that innocent people and the young population must be killed to avenge some kind of providential quest. How can you call yourself a Christian? Well, you just did.
I want to make sure we get our moral clarity straight before we proceed. No one likes what's happening in Gaza. No one with a heart or a soul or a mind likes when kids die. But you must understand who started the conflict so that you could end it correctly. And until Hamas brokers an unconditional surrender, of which they are unwilling to do, they could release the hostages and drop their weapons and their lives would be spared. Instead, they are using children of Gaza as cannon fodder, financed by the Iranian mullahs and dragging the entire world into this conflict. So I don't even know what we're debating at this point other than I believe that Israel, I believe the facts, Israel was unconditionally attacked on October 7th. They're responding in kind. And I would just ask you a very simple moral question. How should Israel have responded?
Not with the blanket carpet bombing of the city, not with bombing hospitals. Of course, some kind of military operation might have been necessary, but not murder on this scale. There is no justification for what is happening with the enormous death toll that is being produced. I really cannot see how you come here and you have the gall to lecture us on Christian morality and then sit here and justify the murder of thousands of civilians. And is it working, Mr. Cook? Is Hamas dismantled?
I've never said that.
You just did.
Well, no.
This is your whole
in
thing.
war, these are called casualties of a war.
We're going to need to stop bringing this
Again,
to a close.
I'm not going to justify every military maneuver of a 100,000 person army. Instead, what I will do is I'll be clear that there is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly...
Isn't that the morality of a child?
Well, hold on. It's interesting you say that, because a child who knows that Israel is the good guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
I will be glad that I will not have been somebody who has defended the genocide of the Palestinian people. And I think you will have to reckon one day that you have reckoned with...
Interesting. I want to close on this. So can you tell me what African country is currently ongoing a civil war?
Believe it or not, I know about Sudan because I'm not an idiot.
How about what Southeast Asian country has an ethnic cleansing going on right now?
Myanmar.
Good. And you have strong opinions on both sides?
Unlike you, I take an effort to be informed about foreign policy and to come to conclusions. You are a culture warrior. I believe when everything is done, Mr. Kirk, people will see you and the people you supported as corrupt, as selling the country out to the lowest bidder, and of doing irreparable damage to a country I'm sure we all deep down love.
The difference...
I think you will have to reckon with that.
The difference
Mr. Kirk.
is when...
Are you wearing 7 layers and still freezing your man nipples? You need the new 340
Strong men built the West and won the wars and built the building that we're in right now. And without strong men, then you all of a sudden see civilization unfold upon itself. And we're seeing that happen in real time.
Charlie Kirk is the founder and president of Turning Point USA, a prominent conservative youth organization with a presence of over 2,000 high school and college campuses across the United States. He served as the chairman of Students for Trump, which focused on mobilizing young voters during the 2020 presidential election. Kirk is the host of the podcast The Charlie Kirk Show and maintains a social media presence following with high levels of engagement across all platforms. So please welcome me for introducing Charlie Kirk. Welcome.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go straight into it. So some of my first questions are regarding immigration. So you've argued the 14th Amendment policy, 14th Amendment has been misapplied to undocumented immigrants. And if so, you oppose birthright citizenship. And if you do oppose birthright citizenship, what alternative system would you propose for determining who is automatically a citizen? And how would you address the risk of creating a legally precarious or stateless class of US-born children?
Okay, it's a good question. And first of all, thank you for having me, and great to be here, everybody. So if you don't, I was amazed. I was at the other place yesterday, so we hope that you guys are going to be even better, right? We'll see what happens. I was amazed by how much you guys care about American politics and you know about our system of government. So if you don't know, I'm just going to kind of just give you a quick overview. So we have the 14th Amendment. It was one of the post-Civil War amendments. It's been used to applied for a lot of different things. One of the ways that it's been debated is this idea of birthright citizenship. So birthright citizenship is that currently in America, you could fly from Beijing, China, 9 months pregnant, land in San Francisco, go to the hospital, and your baby is a full U.S. passport holder, full U.S. citizen. No reservations, no, asterisk, nothing at all whatsoever. So that is what's called birthright citizenship. Most of the rest of the world doesn't have it. I don't even think you guys have it here in Britain, where you could just come into the country and have a baby and you get a passport and you become a full citizen. So the question is, does the 14th Amendment apply to the children of non-citizens? Well, the Supreme Court ruled in the late 1890s in what's called the Wong case that it does apply to the children of permanent residents. Since 1890, I think it was 1898 or something similar to that, it has not yet been decided or adjudicated whether or not illegal immigrants or non-American, non-permanent resident, non-U.S. passport, non-green card holders and their children can get birthright citizenship. I think that we should join the rest of the world, including your country, and not give just full U.S. citizenship for people that come on birth tourism to the United States.
Thank you. So then what is the alternative system you propose? Because I know the UK has a similar system, but I think Ireland still has kind of like the birthright citizen state and stuff like that. So what would be your alternative?
Well, to the birthright citizenship question, just get rid of it.
And replace?
Well, there should be no replacement, meaning that if you want to come to the United States of America, apply like everybody else and get in line, and you don't get to show up pregnant and have a child and that child becomes a full U.S. citizen.
So in terms of situations where like the parent has been an undocumented immigrant for a couple of years or decades at this point and they're having children, where does that leave the children? Do we then create like a state of like basically people who don't have kind of like documentation?
Yeah, that's correct. They do not become U.S. citizens. So our belief is that we should deport everyone who is in our country illegally back to their country of origin. Something that finally your Labor Prime Minister is waking up and saying he wants to do. I hope he actually does it. But it's quite a concept that you're not allowed to come into a country unless you're invited. And so we in the United States just won a popular vote election, a popular vote majority and electoral vote majority under the idea that we want mass deportations. So if you are in our country illegally, the United States, it is our plan to return you back to your country of origin as a full family unit.
Okay, thank you. And then talking about kind of the idea of mass deportation and basically Trump winning an election and that, we've seen recently that he's been expediting the refugee applications of white South Africans, claiming they are victims of racial discrimination. Considering what you've just said about kind of mass deportation being the view, What do you think justifies the embrace of white South African immigrants? White South African immigrants and their temporary legal protections that Trump is granting them?
Well, for one, one of the leading political parties in South Africa is saying that we should kill the Boer over and over again in a endorsed chant from the top leaders in a political rally saying that we should go kill the white South African farmer. You can look at videos of crosses that will fill roads for miles of white South African farmers that have been brutally murdered in their home, basically because of what is called land reparations at worst. So this is at best, and then there's another word that we could use for it, which we'll see if it actually qualifies for that as time goes on. But yes, I mean, this is a group where a government has decided that we are endorsing the worst and most venomous form of racial hatred against white South African landowners, and they're fleeing appropriate asylum with the United States. Hilariously, it's only been like 25 people that have received this asylum, and the American leaders have been completely okay with every other type of person on the planet to be granted asylum. Like 15 million people they want to grant asylum, but when 15 white South Africans want to show up to the United States and have asylum because there's actually an endorsed mantra and chant to kill them, all of a sudden there's a major issue. I wonder why.
Thank you. So then, considering that, so if it applies to, for example, Nigerian Christians being killed in Nigeria, and other kind of like world atrocities we're seeing across the world where people are in a vulnerable position, you would agree then that they also should have their applications?
It can. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. And if one of the leading political parties in Nigeria, whether it be the Muslim or the Christian faction, was outwardly saying we must kill the Muslims or we must kill the Christians, we're a very generous country. We're willing to look at all the cases associated. I happen to know the South African one better than the Nigerian one. I mean, Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa, so it's not unreasonable that something like this could happen. But the United States of America is a generous country. We've been known when it meets the criteria that we are a place that you can find safe refuge. The problem is our asylum process has become a scam the last 15 years where people from countries just that have high crime rates are able to say that I am fleeing violence to come to the United States of America. Well, guess what? The United States is also very, very violent. You go to Chicago, go to Philadelphia, it's not exactly a good cause or good claim. And that is in a bad way. That is a way where our compassion as Americans is being taken advantage of for an ulterior political motive.
Thank you so much.
If your portfolio is over $250,000 and you aren't hedged, you are sitting on a ticking time bomb. Markets are at all-time highs, but history shows, you know what comes next: volatility and increased risk. A 10% allocation to gold and silver can help hedge uncertainty and protect your wealth. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy to hedge your portfolio with institutional-grade gold and silver. Right now, every qualified investment will receive a free 10-ounce gold coin and protect your portfolio today. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Moving on slightly to a different topic, which is abortion. Currently, there is a woman who has been declared brain dead in Georgia and is being kept on life support because the state's restrictive abortion laws that ban abortion after cardiac activity is detected, generally at 6 weeks. So I want to basically ask you, your thoughts on that and how you think kind of like the pro-life arguments apply.
I'm having a hard time hearing it. So you said there's a woman in Georgia that's on life support because she was not able to get an abortion?
So she's being kept on life support because she still has this baby in her womb. And
she has a what? I'm sorry.
She still has this baby, but she's like brain dead, completely brain dead.
She still has a baby?
Yes, but she's being kept on life support just because of this baby. And this is just due to the state's restrictive abortion laws that ban abortion after cardiac activity is detected.
So I don't know enough about the case. Why is she on life support? Is it a pregnancy-induced ailment or is it a unrelated?
Separately ill, but the idea is she's completely brain dead. So basically the only thing that's keeping her alive is this machine because of the baby due to restrictive abortion laws.
Yes, I mean, that baby is going to be able to live, praise God. And that mom will now, her parting gift to the world will be another life. I think that's beautiful. Unless there's an element of the case I'm missing, like she has pregnancy-induced sepsis, or there's something related to the case that I'm not aware, because I do believe in the exception for the life of the mother, but that doesn't sound like that's what this case is.
So to be clear, like the mother is dead, and like she's
well, hold on. How is she dead if she can?
She's being kept alive.
Hold on a second. How is she dead if you can gestate a baby?
She's brain dead.
But she's not dead. Hold on a second. She's brain dead, but let's re-examine what being dead means. How can you actually have a baby fully develop within you if you're dead. And that's what's always so interesting. People that are called dead, they could still get pregnant. Women who are dead still menstruate. They still, when they are stabbed, their adrenaline levels go up. And again, this goes back to the fundamental question of what is a human being and when does life begin? And it would be very interesting. Shouldn't the question also be, I don't know what her wishes are. Do we know her wishes or not? Or
Well, the thing is, again, she's brain dead. She can't give us her wishes.
Well, no,
but
I'm
her
saying
family,
though, but hold on a second.
Her family have made it
she
very
could have
clear.
prior to this of the pregnancy said, "I want to do whatever is possible to save my baby." So that's not a dumb question.
Yes, but
okay?
I'm not saying it's a dumb
Okay,
question.
so we don't know. So therefore, since we don't know her wishes, we should yield on the side of life. And if that baby is able to survive and the mom dies, I mean, that is of course the moral thing to do.
Surely, considering her family is kind of like, please have been to basically save her first, which is obviously not possible anymore. But
Well, I'm sorry. So the family wants to save the mom, but you said she's brain dead, so
Yes.
there's no way to save her.
So my point
so
is
she's
before-
simply just a vessel for a life.
Well, do you think that's okay for women to just be vessels for life?
No, of course not. In this extreme case, though, which is a moral question of if you terminate the mom, the baby dies. If you can keep the mom, quote unquote, alive long enough, another life enters the world. That is a morally great thing for humanity to be able to say another life comes into the world when someone who is brain dead would otherwise have no contribution to the species.
But what if this continues when we see more restrictive abortion laws in different states?
Well, we're not. This case that you're saying actually proves my point that she doesn't have agency. She doesn't have consciousness. So we should yield on the side of the protection of the human being in utero.
So here's my point. The reason why we have this case happening in the first place is because of how restrictive the abortion laws. So here's my point.
Abortion should be banned in the United States of America, and we're well on our way to do that.
Well, so
Yes, correct, completely, except for the life of the mother.
okay, so in the exception of the life of the mother, you agree that that should be. But in this case where we basically have these women being vessels as brain dead individuals, and we're continuing to carry these pregnancies to full term, do you think this is like morally okay in terms of what if the woman says no beforehand, she doesn't want to be carried as a
I guess
vessel?
the question I would pose to you or anybody else, what is the moral difference between the baby and the womb and her? One is older? Are they not both human beings? I mean, why all of a sudden that we're able to say that she's older and more developed that you can eliminate the smaller being? Why is that okay? Under what moral standard it is okay to eliminate beings smaller than you or because that you've been developed more? In fact, we should, as humanity, say, under this very extreme case, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'm actually going to talk about it because it might be used as like a way to like put us on defense, but in some ways it shows that we value both human beings, that mom who might not have nothing else to give, again, the last thing that her body can actually do is to have another life, her offspring enter into the world. And of course I will defend that because every human life is exceptionally and uniquely made, and we believe in universal human equality, the first of which is life.
Okay, thank you. So some other abortion-related questions, kind of like touching on what you said. You've kind of talked about, obviously, the safety of the mother being like the only kind of like bar in which you think abortion should...
Correct.
Yeah. So what about abortions in cases of sexual assault or rape?
Yeah, so again, let's just say I have two ultrasounds here. One of the ultrasound is a baby that is conceived in rape. The other one is from a loving marriage. Do we know which one is which? So they're both human beings and they both deserve human rights. Someone in this audience was conceived in rape. Do you know who? Tell me. Do they look different? Do they get less rights? Are you not able to have free speech rights because you're a raped baby? No, we believe in universal human equality regardless of how horrific or evil the method of conception is. That is what built the West, and I will continue to defend that.
So then what happens in cases when the baby that is a product of rape or sexual assault is mistreated, is abused?
That's a separate issue. There's plenty of babies that are in loving monogamous marriages that are mistreated and abused. Separate. There is no correlation. There's no moral justification to say that I think, or I even have data that baby will be abused or mistreated. Therefore, murder is okay.
I mean, there is correlation. I think it's very clear when they've been perceived in very, very horrific situations. The mother specifically as well is obviously, in terms of mentally, the impact they have on her, that still the mother has to raise that baby all the way till 18 years old.
Still not a justification for murder. And if you think that abortion is just a medical procedure or cosmetic type intervention, no different than getting plastic surgery, women have regrets after abortion. They have psychological trauma. Again, the question is, do we defend human life universally as a statement? And if the question is, I'm going to just kind of, well, I can eliminate the smaller life because I have regret of a sexual encounter I had, then I find great question with that. On the rape thing, though, to your point, it is the hardest thing that we have to defend on its surface. Rape is awful and terrible. Rapists should be castrated and put in life for jail the rest of their life. The more important fundamental question is, under what moral standard it is okay to do something evil after an evil act when a life is eliminated? One of the most powerful things I get to do is go down college campuses, and all the time I meet young kids that were babies, that were scheduled for abortions, that were conceived in rape, and they are full citizens of America that are flourishing and doing amazing things. And I believe that we should get back to this idea that all human beings are equal regardless of how you entered the world.
Thank you. Then considering, obviously, you've talked about how we need more abortion restrictions, but we're also seeing low birth rates in America and also in the West as a whole. How do you think they interact with each other, and do you think they're related?
I'm sorry, just to make sure I'm hearing the question, and it's not your fault. It's the acoustics. You said falling fertility rates and abortion rates.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So we actually already have a window into this. In Texas, we have completely abolished surgical abortion. You could still do an at-home abortion, which is mifepristone, I think is what it's called. And birth rates are up. About 200,000 new babies net over the last 18 months in Texas versus the years prior. And so, yeah, I mean, in the UK and America, we wouldn't need as many third world immigrants if we didn't kill our babies all the time in the womb.
Thank you very much. My next question is slightly a larger picture, considering not abortion, but just the treatment of men and women. So what do you think the role of red pill media is in the men's rights movement? And what are the implications you think it has for women?
Okay, so I'm sorry, you said that what is the role of right-wing media in the men's rights movement? Yes.
Red pill media.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be...
No, don't worry.
I want to make sure I answer the question. So what is the role of right-wing media in the
red pill media?
I'm sorry, okay, red pill media.
Yes. In the men's rights movement.
What is red pill media?
So, I'm trying to think of a more broad definition.
Can you give me a name?
Think like Joe Rogan, your Andrew Tate.
Joe Rogan's awesome.
Great.
What's wrong with Joe Rogan?
I didn't say there's anything wrong.
No, I know. What's Joe Rogan's role? He helps save civilization. He's a bow hunter. He's fun.
Okay. My more general point is very much content that's being produced right now regarding men, how they act in terms of very toxic masculinity, how they treat women. Something we've seen, at least in the UK, was the show Adolescence came out recently.
Yeah, which was a complete fiction, by the way.
Talking about...
What was it based on?
Talking about the kind of the way media interacts.
I mean, it's a mythology no different than Lord of the Rings. Like, there's no basis for this.
I think there's a slight difference.
Well, you're right. The difference was that the main character was actually an immigrant, not a white person. That's right. That's the one thing they got wrong.
So is it a complete fiction, or is it...
Yeah, it's a mythology. I mean, if they would have talked about how it was like a third world Arab young kid radicalized by Islam and then decide to go stab somebody, then they would have gotten more correct in that Netflix special. But yes, the point that I think, and by the way, this kind of not you, you've been great, but like that ridiculous, the head of the Conservative Party being scolded. Have you not watched Adolescence? What are you talking about? As if it's like some sort of like you have not read the catechism of like the core faith. Have you not experienced the full Eucharist? It's just like preposterous. And so, I mean, sorry, you're asking a good faith question. Like, what is the role of right-wing media? Of course, they're toxic masculinity. There's a war on men in the West. We as men are here to be protectors and defenders and providers. We should treat women with total dignity and respect, of which I'm a proponent of men. I know this crazy Christian idea of saving yourself until marriage and not having sex until marriage. I believe abstinence is not talked about enough. In fact, you want to dignify women, all of a sudden don't have a bunch of hookup sex on Tinder and every app that you can get your hands on and start acting like men. And so, insofar that any media is talking about using women as objects or as ways to try and sleep around a lot, I reject that. At the same time, I am a traditionalist where I believe most, not all, but most women of the West deep down desire getting married and having children and having a husband who loves them. We have a lot of sex in this society and we don't have enough love in this society because love comes from connection. It comes from the soul. It comes from something deeper, not just an orgasm.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your answer. Just another follow-up question on that in terms of Red Pill Media, specifically stuff like Andrew Tate's content, which I think is probably on the edge and kind of the fringe of it. What are your thoughts then in terms of when it kind of pushes the limits?
Yeah, I don't know Andrew. I've never met him. I mean, he has a certain following and he has a certain approach. I don't know if the same trends are here in the UK, but I do know that it is intercontinental, this trend. We see it across Europe and across the UK of this hyperfixation on feminism and female empowerment, while also not acknowledging that strong men built the West and
Fuck these needles. Stab yourself in the stomach every week and you'll see the fat melt away along with your collar.
Why does it feel like losing weight is harder than ever before? I mean, look around. Most people feel stuck, overwhelmed, and exhausted, trying to fight a battle they can't seem to win. And if you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. I used to feel that way too. Do what I did and called PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition 2 years ago. I lost 40 pounds. Look, it doesn't even fit anymore. I feel great and I haven't gained a pound back. Do what I did and make nutrition a top priority. Call 864-644-1900 to schedule your weight loss consultation. Click the link in the description below to get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss package. How we doing, Washington State? This is quite a turnout. You guys know how it works. If you disagree, go to the front of the line. I got to tell you, it's much nicer here than at UW. I like Washington State a lot better. A lot better. You guys can say that, but I agree with it 100%. We don't like the Huskies at all around here. All right. All right, if you disagree, go to the front of the line. Thank you guys for being here. We'll be here for a little while. Get comfortable. We'll keep on throwing out hats. And it's great to be here on this beautiful day in Pullman. Oh, I love that. That's great. All right, first question. Yes, come on up. And thank you guys so much.
Hello, Charlie.
How are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. My name is Philip, and my question for you is if you believe that Trump's deportation of illegal immigrants is unconstitutional.
Oh, it's very constitutional, yeah.
Okay. I disagree with that. I believe that it is in a violation of the Fifth Amendment, which provides due process to all persons in the United States. This would include non-citizens, and many of these people are being deported without having a trial or going before a judge, which is in violation of the due process.
Yeah, so you are right that if there's an illegal here and they commit a crime while they are an illegal citizen or legal resident or legal individual, illegal, they do get due process. However, there's 2 exceptions to that. There's something called expedited removal. So if someone comes within 14 days or they're within 100 miles of the border, the Supreme Court has ruled that you do not have to give them the same due process rights. Or if you invoke the Alien Invasion Act, which President Trump has, 1798 law, which allows you to expel people that are here that might be part of enemy gangs or enemy organizations that have invaded the homeland. So under those 2 provisions, you are allowed to expel people here in the country without traditional due process rights.
Well, I do have some issue with that, specifically with your second point of Trump relying on the Alien and Sedition Act. We can see that whenever Joe Biden...
It's not the Sedition Act, but you're close.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
no, you're good. It's the Alien Invasion Act, but it's fine. It's all good. It's actually, they were passed right next to each other, so you're not that far off.
So we can see with Joe Biden, when he tried to forgive student loan debt, he was relying on a law that was roughly 20 years old. And the Supreme Court said in that case that a president relying on a law that was passed in a time that's too different from today's times can be unconstitutional. And I think if that was ruled to be unconstitutional with the law only being 20 years old, that Donald Trump relying on a law that was passed in the 18th century would be very unconstitutional.
That point sounds smart. Should we get rid of the First Amendment?
I'm confused where you're going with that.
It's pretty old.
The First Amendment has
been... It's from 1787. Should we get rid of the abolition of slavery? That's from the 1860s. Should old laws be getting rid of? Just because it's old doesn't mean it's bad. Should we get rid of the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment? You're the one arguing for due process, which actually was authored in 1791.
Well, the difference is
old
that
stuff
these
doesn't mean
laws...
it's bad. It just means to just criticize it on its merits, not how long it's been around.
But these things have been reaffirmed several times. With the First Amendment, there have been several cases regarding the First Amendment. We can see that it was incorporated into the states. And we can see with other cases like West Schoolbird versus Barnett,
Same with the Alien Invasion Act. It's never been ruled unconstitutional. It's been heard many times.
But when has it been reaffirmed by the Supreme Court?
Multiple times. It's never. I believe in like 1850. There was another 1950. It hasn't in the last couple of decades, of which there will be a legal challenge. But understand, this is specifically about Tren de Aragua and MS-13. That is specifically the carve out of this law that allows the president to have expedited removal of people that are affiliated with enemy gangs that, by the way, have committed crimes here in the interior of the country, to get them off our homeland. And so the question really is, if you're part of an enemy gang, shouldn't you go back to your country of origin and not stay here in the United States of America when you're raping or murdering or having domestic violence or abuse? Not only that, the American people overwhelmingly voted for that in November.
Well, I don't believe that these people who are being deported are affiliated with a criminal organization. At least the majority of them aren't. The Trump administration has deported...
Every one of them has documentation that they're part of MS-13, including Garcia from Maryland.
That's not correct.
No, the Maryland dad, actually, it's come out. He was part of MS-13, acknowledged he was part of MS-13. He actually beat his wife in 2021. His wife says, I actually don't want to be around my husband anymore because my husband Garcia is beating me. He said he was afraid to go to El Salvador because an enemy gang was going to come after him. Enemy gang, that sounds like a gang member to me. And guess what? You should be happy. He's home. He's from El Salvador, and he's back in his country of origin. We sent him home. He's not an American. He's not an American resident. He's not an American citizen. He's not here legally. He broke into the country, committed crimes, was part of MS-13, and was removed under this provision back to his country of origin, all of which is legal and perfectly accessible.
You're saying all these things, and while they might be true, they've not been shown to be true. And the Trump administration claiming that these things are true gives dangerous precedent. No, but if the Trump administration can just claim shown to be true. That a person living here is part of a gang.
He acknowledged it. It's not. He said it in his own asylum cases. In 2019, his own documents, he said, I am part of a gang that if I go back to El Salvador, I will be murdered. I need asylum in America because another gang might murder me. And again, this guy beat his wife. Like, why are Democrats going out of their way to defend the worst of our society? Maybe they should fight this hard for American citizens for once. Like, you want to know why Trump is so popular? The left goes out of their way to fight for foreigners that have broken into our land and commit crimes and that have affiliation with the worst organizations on the planet, while the American citizen is being left behind. That is the power of our movement, and I wish the American left would have some spirit and some fight for the forgotten men and women of this country. Not just foreigners here illegally. Final point, if you'd like to make one. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm getting my education to become an actuary, so I can get a job, make money. But anyways, I want to ask you what your level of education was and why you didn't go to college or dropped out or whatever.
I'm a proud high school graduate.
Okay.
So. And an American entrepreneur that now employs 1,500 people, $100 million budget, millions and millions of people follow us, and I didn't have to go to college to do that. And so if people think college is for them, then great.
Okay, how did you get there?
Through hard work and grit and determination and traveling.
Did you make connections with other people? Did you network?
Yeah, and actually college wouldn't have helped at all for that.
Okay, how?
Well, because I was trying to meet successful, rich, seasoned, conservative people to seed fund my operation. And if you're trying to find successful, conservative people, you don't go to college campuses to find those people usually.
Well, if you look at the crowd, all these people here are conservative, so I don't know what...
Fair enough. Again, emphasis on wealthy, successful business people. I'm sure there's some in the audience.
So you're calling all these people poor?
Well, no, I'm calling them students. Okay, so unless someone here is like a crypto billionaire, I want to meet you. I was looking for seed funding, of which is very normal for a startup operation to do. Okay. But again, I weighed the cost and the benefit. I took a gap year. It's been 13 gap years. However, I am curious, does it matter that I didn't went to college? Do we want to debate resumes or ideas?
No, ideas, not resumes.
Cool. So you are studying to be an actuary. Cool. Explain to me, are you worried at all that artificial intelligence will take your job in 5 years?
I've asked a few. I've had many informational interviews with actuaries. I've asked them that same question, and they aren't worried. They actually think that it's going to help actuaries do their job more efficiently, especially with computing on the computer. So, but the job itself isn't going to go away because of AI.
But there might be less actuaries.
Well, it's a very secure job, so I'm not worried.
I mean, again, I know dangerously little about an actuary, but let's say that you're an actuary for an insurance company.
Yes.
I would imagine part of being an actuary for Allstate or State Farm would be the synthesizing and the collection of tens of millions of data points, finding trends and averages, and then trying to project where that data is going to go, right?
Yeah.
Objectively, artificial intelligence is going to be better than 99% of human beings with that way. And there's no human cost, and you can run it 24 hours a day. So you're right, there still might need actuaries to make final determinations. But again, I don't know enough about it. But to say that AI won't touch your field, I think it will. In fact, I think it will lower the headcount and make entry-level new graduates from schools like this with actuary degrees or math degrees not nearly as important as it was 10 years ago. Hence my hypothesis that college is a scam, that a lot of people here are getting degrees that will be replaced by robots or artificial intelligence, and half the audience, if you get a job, that actually half the jobs that are available that kids end up getting don't even require college degrees in the first place.
Okay, but so you're saying AI is just going to totally replace everything?
Not everything, no. I said, I'm hypothesizing. I don't know enough about what actuaries do, but
yeah.
You heard my 30-second shtick, somewhat directionally correct, I imagine, right?
Sure.
Because insurance companies, the backbone of how insurance companies make money are actuaries, because they have to know what to pay for rates and then pay out for, hurricanes or fires or are people going to drop dead. They have to project that data into the future. I mean, AI is really good at math right now. It's getting better, and it's getting better, and it's getting better. And so if we get to a place where they think it's going to get, and you're a business owner, why employ 5,000 actuaries that require benefits and health care?
Well, what about the human element? Like, an AI can predict something, but a human can outweigh whether or not that's the right decision or not.
Oh, of course, no. I'm saying the headcount of actuaries will inevitably go down. So you'll end up with like 100 really seasoned actuaries, and all the 4,990 people, 900 would probably be largely unnecessary, because the number crunching, the data synthesizing, the projecting can be done much quicker and even more accurately in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, I mean, we are already using computers to calculate data with coding. So I don't know what you're trying to say here.
This is much different, though. The AI can assume some of the human characteristics to be able to blend data models, project them, think analytically. AI is even more advanced than what you are seeing publicly. It's way more advanced. It's like 2 years more advanced. The private artificial intelligence of what companies are paying for right now would blow your mind what they can actually get. So again, I don't know enough about actuaries to be able to make a determination, but if I were guessing, I would say that 90% of actuaries are going to be out of work in the next 10 years.
Okay, so can we go back to the original question with college being a scam? Though?
Yeah, but that's part of the point, is that if you're borrowing money...
But not just actuaries, not just me, but like other majors, other jobs. You always talk about like social, like liberal arts majors, but what about like... I don't know, like teachers. Teachers need to get credentials.
Well,
and
teachers
all that.
are also going to largely be replaced by artificial intelligence.
Well, why would we do that?
Well, but it's already happening. It's not a matter of why. Again, I actually think there's some problems with it.
You would like a kindergarten to be taught by an AI?
I'm observing a trend. I'm not even saying it's good. I'm saying it's happening.
Okay.
I'm saying that we are seeing teacher headcount go down across the country because...
Well, also because it's hard to make a living being a teacher.
Well, also AI is far more customizable. It actually is able to have learning plans based on a lot of different characteristics of the individual student. We're seeing kindergartners across the country use it. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I actually think we lose the human element of teaching.
Yeah.
We can agree on that, but it's happening, right? So we could fight the future. It's the direction it's going. So the question should be, is college worth it like it was 20 years ago? And increasingly the answer is no. Again, half the kids in this audience, I'll reiterate it because I wasn't as clear as I should have been, half the kids in this audience, if they get a job, they'll end up getting a job that doesn't require a college degree, rendering their time here largely useless.
But they network here and they make friends and stuff.
You also can network outside of college. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
If the argument is that this is a glorified LinkedIn, if that's what college has become,
I'm not really trying to make that point.
Then make the point is why 80% of kids are here that should be in college.
Well, if you go to college and you have it on your resume, you have a degree. What that shows is that you can finish something. and that you are trustworthy of finishing something.
Increasingly, people are looking for kids that didn't go to college. In fact, they're bringing back competency tests and IQ tests. Increasingly, it matters less and less of the credential, matters more and more of the competency and the character of the applicant you're looking at. Look, you are right. In certain fields, they require a college degree. Respect. Totally right. But that's
So
that's
where do they
diminishing.
go then? Where do they go?
For what?
In no college, where do they go?
Well, we need more welders, entrepreneurs,
Yeah, there's
carpenters,
people
HVAC.
already going. I had an old roommate. He left to become an electrician.
And he's going to end up making a lot more money than most of the people in this audience, actually.
Okay, so what do they do? Everyone's becoming an electrician. Everyone becomes.
You know, we have 11 million open jobs in this country right now that pay more than $80,000 or more a year that don't require a college degree.
They just become, they just go there.
Well, yes. So, for example, let's
no
be
education.
honest. Well, hold on. Just because you don't have a degree doesn't mean you don't have an education. You can be a lifelong learner right now because we have these supercomputers in our right-hand pocket. You could take Hillsdale online courses. You could do the Peterson Academy. You can listen to deep podcasts. You could learn more by listening to 50 hours of Joe Rogan talk to scientists than the sociology department here at Washington State University. So, but the point being is just because you did not go to college or get a degree does not mean you are not cultured or that you are not in pursuit of knowledge. We actually have more opportunities for people to be wise and to understand the world than ever before. But let me just reiterate it. Many of the people here in college are in college because there's a shame element to becoming a carpenter. There's a shame element to becoming an electrician. No one wants to say, oh, I work construction. And no parent is like a proud parent. They're like, what's Johnny doing? Oh, Johnny's become a welder. It's like that's kind of looked down upon. Instead, it's like, oh, my kid goes to Washington State or my kid goes to UW. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but we have 11 million job openings in this country that people simply don't want to do right now. And that's a tragedy, and they pay really, really well. And they're not going to be replaced anytime soon.
Okay. All right. Well,
Thank you for your time.
I got anywhere with you, but
thank you.
Have a good day.
Of course. All right. Howdy there. I'm Sam here. Trying to get a business degree, and I wanted to ask personally if you should believe Pride Month should be continued.
We should only have American Pride Month in the month of July. So, no, I wouldn't do anything legally about it, but no, I don't think that any government building or government entity should celebrate what happens in June.
Okay. Oh, of course. So you just believe it should be basically privately celebrated?
Yeah, if you want to, you have a right to do it, of course, obviously.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time then. I just wanted to ask.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question.
Hello, Charlie. Hello, Charlie. How are you doing today? Good? Okay, so mine's just, I think it's a little dumb question, but I feel like you know more about this than I do, but I think it's a really important question. My question is basically, you know how the country is divided basically into Republican and Democrat, right? And we've kind of became really, 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 really divided. Like, you know, with all of the people right here, you get to hear like a really big protest going on right over there.
Our crowd's bigger. But
why do you think we have become so divided as a country?
Yeah, it's not actually a stupid question. I mean, part of it is, look, it's going to sound like overly simple, but I do want to ask a question to prove my point. The side that believes in freedom of speech is the side that I believe is on the right side of history.
Yeah.
Has there been an instance, guys, where a liberal has had an open mic on campus where conservative kids can ask questions and you guys feel respected? How many of you kids here on campus, raise your hand, do you feel as if you're graded down if you come out as a Trump supporter or conservative? This is the why we're so divided. Look around. And I hope the professor's still here to look at this. It is not because of conservatives. We seek to heal this country. I'm trying to find common ground. We're trying to look at each other as fellow citizens. Conservatives on campus are treated terribly. Just the other day, by the way, is that student here, the student that got punched in the face? Where is he? Come on up here. This kid's amazing. What's your name again? Jay. So this is Jay. He has a gift for me. That's fine. So Jay got punched in the face by a professor here at Washington State University because he was wearing a MAGA hat. Jay, am I telling the story correctly? Come on, come here. Okay, I'll open the... Do you want me to open the gift now? Okay. Come on up here, Jay. So Jay, I don't want to put you on the spot. So you got punched in the face. You got punched in the face by a professor here. What happened?
Well, basically, so what happened, everyone, was I was walking to Valhalla to get my food exchanged, and PhD student Patrick Mahoney, as well as his accomplice Gerald Hoff, did not like the hat I was wearing. All right, or Patrick, whatever. And when my head was down, remember, I made zero eye contact with him. He saw my hat. He ripped the hat off my head, crumbled it. I had to go confront him and say, "What are you doing, dude?" Because he had the hat on it. Then he told me to go get it. I'm sorry. Then after that, of course, he leaned towards me. So, like you see, I had to go throw my food at his face, and then no, he did, because I thought he was about to throw a punch. What happened to him? What happened next? He charged at me. I had to stand, my ground, and then also Gerald Hoff also came at me too. Gerald grabbed my leg. I was falling down. Patrick grabbed my chest, slammed it on the road pavement. Then he grabbed my head and also slammed it on the road pavement as hell. And when he did that, I remember, oh my goodness, no. So on like far left, like Reddit and also Discord, crush the heads of your opposition, crush the heads of your fascist when he did that.
And this was a professor, right?
Yeah, he was teaching 103.
Teaching 103. So, by the way, God bless you, man. Thank you so much. That was really great. Thank you. This is why we're divided. I hate to put it that way, but if a conservative professor would have hunted down a Kamala Harris wearing student, it would have been a hate crime and the #1 news story in the country. Now we could barely get attention for a young man who was punched by a professor here at Washington State University. They're the ones dividing the country. We're the ones trying to heal it. Thank you.
Ladies over 50, that fancy electric toothbrush that you have, it might actually be aging you instead.
Hi, Charlie. First off, it's great to meet you. Yeah, sure. And I'd like to thank you for putting this whole thing on. I think we definitely need more room for open discussion between the left and the right. And I think that the lack of that is what has contributed to so much, polarization in our country. But I do have one particular policy question for you. So I was watching a video of yours about a week or two ago, and you were talking about the Biden pill penalty and the Inflation Reduction Act, if you recall this. And not to misquote you, but I believe your exact words were, gutting medical care research to fund green energy giveaways. Is that correct? Does that sound about right?
Yes, but I should have been much more precise. I could tell you why I don't like the pill penalty, if you'd like.
Okay, I'll continue.
But I acknowledge I could have been more precise.
So, from my understanding from reading the bill, is that there are two separate streams. So, the green energy reform comes from corporate taxation, and the decrease in medical research that you're talking about comes from lowering prescription drug prices, which in turn could lower the amount of medical research. But it's projected that in 30 years we could see a 1% decrease in that. And just to add a final point to my question, you seemed very bothered about how this would disrupt medical research, but I haven't heard you speak out yet about all the funding and the money that Trump has withheld from multiple institutions that do medical research. So I just like.
It's a great question. What's your name?
Shay.
Shay, thank you. That's a great question. Yeah. Very policy specific. I'm gonna do my best to answer without boring the crowd. So number one, I'm a big believer in private incentives and a reduction of public funding. So if someone were to come up, let's just take a drug, and I'm very anti-pharmacological agents most of the time. But a drug that is objectively really good for humanity is a statin, Like statins are really, really good. They lower your cholesterol. I would prefer you lower your cholesterol in other ways. Cholesterol isn't also the killer people think it is, but there is a correlation sometimes with high LDL levels and heart attacks. We can agree with that.
Yes.
If someone was to create the statin and all of a sudden there was not a profit motive for them to be able to sell that product, then why invest all that money in the research and the development? So that's where I come from on this, is that if we are to find drug breakthroughs, then the people that are investing that money need to have an incentive to do so. And that is one of the reasons why America has led the way in some of the most exciting drug advancements of the last 20 or 30 years. Public funding does not always have that same sort of incentive structure. Now, to strongman my own argument against me, some of the greatest medical advancements have come through public funding, but not all of them. And so it's a mixture. So what the Biden pill penalty did, part of the Inflation Reduction Act, is it would have severely jeopardized the patent window, basically, that a successful drug would have had, basically de-incentivizing future investment in drug breakthroughs that could have helped a lot of people.
Yeah, so I completely understand.
Does that
what
make
you're-
sense?
So
Yeah.
I completely understand when you're talking about incentives and how if the incentive is lower, that we're not going to see as much production of new drugs. But we've seen like policies like this go into effect in multiple other countries that have much better healthcare and better research than us. You see this in Switzerland, you see this in Germany and Norway. Much of the Scandinavian countries that have very fortified healthcare systems have already adjusted to this.
You are right that they have lower costs, but do they have this robust innovation? No. Now, Germany does. Germany has a very good drug industry. So that would be an exception. To grant you a point, Germany has some of the best drug company. Best, I think Bayer is not that great company. But anyway, the point being, they're very innovative.
Yeah.
So it's a balance. I tend to lean on the side of innovation, not on the side of price controls.
Okay, but like, it's great having like these drugs and them being available to the public, but where I think I disagree with you is what's the point of having these drugs if they're so inaccessible to the consumer base that like it's great having.
That's a good argument.
Like,
yeah. So you have to find some sort of a medium. I think
I agree.
Biden reached too far.
Okay.
Where the potential biotech market was, again, it could have been alarmism, but at least the story that I was presented would have been a flight of capital. And that's a serious problem. Like, for example, there is not like a robust biotech industry in Sweden.
I can completely agree
Right.
with that. We're the headquarters, like we are the epicenter of the world. When
And
it
I
comes
don't think
to
we should
biotech
lose
industry.
that. Like, again, I say this as a Maha guy who thinks we take way too many pills, but there are some potentially very exciting drugs. Like, for example, for kids that have like life-threatening illnesses, like stuff that we can all agree that we want to try to see breakthroughs on, right?
Yeah.
And we can also get to root causes. But I don't want to see us lose the biotech edge. And I hate to always like pull this card, but China is catching up to us on biotech. And I think it would be awful if all of a sudden they're the ones that control the IP to potentially life-saving drugs for our kids.
Okay, so
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
final
so
point.
I understand what you're saying. My question for you then on that: if you're against the Biden pill penalty, I'm yet to hear you propose an alternative to that. How would you recommend bringing down prescription drug prices while maintaining that research? if
The
that's what you
only
think?
solution that I have found is you have to make it quicker and easier to get drug approvals.
Okay.
Is that there's too much waiting time for research and development and testing and trial, and you have to be able to get from inception to drug to market way quicker. You have to compress that time frame, which would then create a lot more competition in the biotech market,
Yeah.
which would then inevitably, hopefully, lower prices.
And just one tiny question for you, just because I've been wondering how you feel about this. You're obviously clearly very pro-tariff, pro-protectionism when it comes to bringing back like the American economy and the American workforce. How did you feel about the CHIPS and Science Act, the bipartisan act that Biden helped bring in?
Some of it was really good.
Okay.
Some of it I really didn't like.
I can understand that. I can
Some
accept
of it, like I live in Arizona.
Yeah.
And part of what was part of that bill was bringing the Taiwanese semiconductor industry to Phoenix.
that. Yeah.
We have like 10,000 new jobs. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So some of it was actually pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Great. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Shay.
that. Have a great
Very
day.
thoughtful question. Thank you. Give it up for Shay. That's how conversation should go, everybody. That's great. Sebastian, give it up for that.
Like this? Is that good? Is that good? Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey Charlie, how you doing? Good. So, I have a question. Charlie, you talk a lot about patriotism and supporting our troops. So I want to ask you, why did you and your movement have outrage when Joe Biden checked his watch when the 13 service members were coming home, but no outrage when Donald Trump is going golfing when 4 service members come home dead?
You have to tell me more. So you would have liked to see President Trump go and visit when they,
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree that checking the watch is probably disrespectful as well. But
Now I will make one distinction, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Joe Biden was responsible for those 13 guys that died. Donald Trump was not. Now, Donald Trump called all those families. He wrote them all letters. Now, what do I mean by that? Those 13 service members, when Joe Biden checked his watch, was because of Joe Biden's reckless withdrawal from Afghanistan. He was solely responsible for the death of those 13 people. The 4 men that Donald Trump did not go to the funeral service of which I think J.D. Vance did, for the record. But fair, you could have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
It was because of a training exercise. That's a big difference. Donald Trump was not responsible for their death, where Joe Biden was responsible for all 13 of those dying at that gate at the terrible withdrawal in Kabul.
It was a golf tournament. It was a golf tournament. It wasn't just some train exercise.
I understand. And again, I would bet you money that Donald Trump goes and counsels the families and goes above and beyond, of which is his reputation. He's been known to go above and beyond for family and service members. He hosted all 13 of the families, the people that lost their lives in Afghanistan. And just so we are clear, Joe Biden never called the families of those 13 that lost their lives in Kabul. And so you can have your own opinions about that, but you have to be morally clear about the differences between 4 terrible, awful deaths that die in a training exercise versus 13 that die because of a commander-in-chief being derelict in his duty.
If Donald Trump does not do what you said he did with the 13 soldiers, will you condemn it?
Again, if Donald Trump shows no remorse or sympathy, doesn't write a letter or doesn't send them,
right?
Well, yeah, I would. You know what I would do? No, I wouldn't condemn it. I'd call him and tell him to do it.
Okay, do it. Have him do it then.
Well, I bet he already has. I don't know every detail about this, but I would bet you a lot of money that President Trump has been incredibly magnanimous, charitable, generous, and empathetic towards those 4 soldiers. I could say that just because I know the man, I know his heart, and I know how he aches whenever anybody dies, especially service members in our wonderful military.
Okay, what about when he disrespected John McCain, calling him not a war hero because he is captured?
Okay, well, that was a long time ago. For the record, this was an ongoing dispute between John McCain and President Trump. And for the record, outside of John McCain's service in Vietnam, let's be very morally clear. John McCain's foreign policy has been responsible for the unjust death of nearly 1 million people in the Middle East. So spare me where I'm not going to go out of my way to defend John McCain, who was basically the author of the Iraq War, of the Libyan Civil War, of intervention in Syria, of saber-rattling against Iran, of saying that Russia is one of our greatest enemies. John McCain was a neoconservative, just like George W. Bush. And so it was part of a long dispute between McCain and Trump. And honestly, Trump made good on it when he sent Air Force One to go have John McCain's 9th funeral in 4 days. You guys remember this? It was like the world's longest funeral. And so if we want to dig up something Trump said 10 years ago, I
have service members in my family that were Vietnam War vets, and I think calling them suckers and losers is not a good thing.
He never said that. Now this is where we're getting into fraud territory. He never said suckers and losers. You are right of what he said about McCain.
White House people confirmed he said it.
No, it was by Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic. We know that slippery little snake that he is.
That's not patriotism.
The chief of staff and the national security advisor that hates him, John Bolton, said that he never said that about the D-Day. So do not come up here and peddle hoaxes. You have to be very accurate. You have to look at original source documents. But he never said suckers and losers. President Trump would never believe that, think that. In fact, he's been a wonderful fighter for America's military and will continue to do so. He never said suckers and losers. That is not correct.
We can dispute that, but sure.
There's no evidence.
All right.
Do you have another thing on your piece of paper you'd like to mention?
No, just that you're a coward and not a patriot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, yeah, you're good. Hello, Charlie. Hope you're doing well today. My name is Doug, and I came today because I'm not really political generally. To be honest, I'm not even registered to vote. To be honest, so I just came here to kind of exchange the marketplace of ideas. Not to debate or anything, but just to exchange the marketplace of ideas. And so I had a question about a policy that I'm kind of conflicted on myself, to be honest. So I wanted to hear your opinion. So I was wondering, and please let me know if I'm misinterpreting your political positions, but you are pro-life generally. Would that be a correct assessment? So I was wondering, very much so. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to check. So if given the opportunity, that is a hypothetical question, would you go and abort Hitler before he was born, or would you raise him?
That's a very good question. That's actually a morally good question. Yeah. That's not. It could come across as a troll, but continue.
Well, I'm asking the other scenario is if you would maybe allow him to be brought to term so he could be raised in an environment where, similar to how Kanye West said he became more sympathetic to Jewish people after watching 21 Jump Street. Would you raise him in an environment like that instead, so maybe he would be a better person?
All right, now you're trolling. But
okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to ask you the question.
It's a very difficult moral question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
That's fine. Yeah, I don't know the answer either. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Charlie.
Thanks. Register to vote.
I sure will, man.
All right.
Okay. Some people just don't get it. That Squarespace isn't just for websites. You can get a domain from Squarespace too. It's kind of like how your parents.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Isabel. It's nice to meet you. First of all, I appreciate you having an open forum and not just talking at people, like giving a chance for people to ask questions. So I appreciate that. My question is, I tried to ask someone that knew, but I don't know if on your stance, if a woman is raped, if they should be able to have an abortion or not.
The baby's life should be protected is my position. So.
Okay. Are you aware of Lisa Medina's case?
Was this the Ohio young lady that had to go to another state to get an abortion?
No,
Okay.
she was a Peruvian woman. Well, she was a kid. She was
12, this is the 10 or 11-year-old? Or
5, actually. She was 5 years old, and she had issues with her reproductive tract, and she was pregnant. She was sexually abused, and she got pregnant at 5 years old.
I am familiar with the 5-year-old. Just so we can both agree, it's a real case that is extraordinarily rare. I mean, it's like a 1 in 300 million case to be able to get pregnant before the age of even 10 or 11.
I agree,
Okay.
but it's
There's been like 12 documented cases.
okay. I feel like 12 is still a good amount. Like 12 is still a fair amount of people. You know, they're real people. They're real children.
Yeah, 12 over 60 years is small, but it is real. So please continue.
Okay, so I mean, rape is pretty common, right? Would you agree with that?
It is, yes. However, there's a lot of fake rape claims as well. But I mean, rape is not nearly as common as people say it is. But yes.
Okay, well, it's still a pressing issue. I think anyone here could agree that rape is a pressing issue. But
For sure, it happens.
I don't understand how someone could argue that the 5-year-old should carry a baby to term. I don't understand how a 5-year-old girl could raise a child, how that child would be given a better life. I understand that you're giving the child life, but I don't understand.
Well-
And I know you have kids. How old are your kids?
2 years and 2 years and 1 year. So,
okay, so if you have really young kids, and 3 years is not a long time. I won't even have graduated in 3 years. Would you be okay with your
Well,
child having
again,
another baby?
This idea of 5-year-olds getting pregnant is so insanely rare.
That's not my question,
No,
though.
no, it is. Like, it's not even worth even addressing. However, like, elementally, there's another issue to your problem, which is if they are 5-year-old getting pregnant, their life is in jeopardy. That actually is not the pressing issue of how they got conceived, right? So there's two separate things: woman's life in jeopardy, or
The 5-year-old's life wasn't in jeopardy. They had a C-section. It was perfectly
well,
healthy.
then-
So that's not the issue there.
Yeah, then the baby shouldn't be aborted.
Okay, so you'd be okay with your
If-
2-year-old
well, again,
in 3 years
okay.
having a baby?
Well, no, I wouldn't be okay. But would I be okay with terminating another life? No.
So you would rather your daughter at 5 have a baby than have it aborted?
Yes, I would not be able to live with blood in my hands. Would you?
Okay, I think
No, but let's walk through this. Would you be okay walking into an abortion clinic, hearing a heartbeat, seeing brainwaves, seeing the baby on the ultrasound, and say,
yes. I think
"Wow, that's really that's dark."
but that's not my question. That's why I
No,
didn't want
It absolutely is your question. The question is, you asked me, would I be okay with it? You said yes. There's no moral difference between a baby conceived in rape or not.
There is 100% a moral difference.
Really?
Also, you're.
No, time out. Wait, someone in this audience is conceived in rape. Do you know who it is?
I have no idea.
Because they're all human beings, regardless of how they were conceived.
Okay, but that doesn't.
Oh, no, because there's no moral difference of the human being's method of conception. You don't get more rights if you're not raped or less rights if you're raped. You're a human being regardless. Universal human rights apply to all people regardless if they come from a loving family or they come from a horrific, evil tragedy like rape.
Okay, but what about the life and the moral well-being of the mother? And I think as a man, it's something that's harder to understand. If you are raped and you have to go through carrying that baby, that's something you will never be able to understand. And I can agree. That's why I didn't want to debate abortion. I just wrote a paper on abortion. I can totally understand how, in the cases outside of rape, incest, or the life of the mother, how it could be seen as murder or things like that. But I'm specifically talking about rape.
No, I got it. You could see it as it's seen as murder. Then why would murder be the answer to rape?
That's
That's exactly what you're postulating.
That is
You are-
not what I'm.
No, it
that's
is.
not the answer to rape.
I
I'm-
agree. So life should be the answer to rape, is what we're saying. If a baby is conceived in rape, you don't all of a sudden say, let's do something more evil because something evil happened. By no moral standard do two wrongs make a right. We know that. We're raised saying that. And so when evil thing happens, human life created, that human has rights, we have to respect them, including the right to life.
And I'm saying I don't think you will ever be able to possibly come close to understanding as a man what it is like to be raped and have to carry that baby
Do you-
relive all of that trauma.
Do you
will
know what
never
it's like
be
to be
able
a
to
man?
understand that. That's not what I'm talking about
The
here.
point being is, like, are we allowed to discuss stuff just because we don't know what it's like to be the other sex? Are we
I
allowed
would
to have
not be
strong
allowed to
opinions?
discuss what it's like to get a vasectomy or what it's like to experience that. No, I
Okay,
don't have.
but have
no.
you personally been raped?
No,
Okay,
I have.
then how
My
are you
mother
able to-
has been raped.
Okay, but
and
you,
had to carry the
point
abortion.
being is, then how are you able to personally be able
because
to talk
I'm a
about
woman and I.
it? You're using a fallacy called a argument from authority, that if you only have a certain merit badge or a certain distinction, you're allowed to have opinions on that topic. Men can have opinions on this just because we have prostates and not uteruses.
Okay, and I agree. You can have your
Yes.
opinion. I'm not saying you can't have an opinion, but I'm saying you can't begin to understand the depth of what that would feel like to be raped by someone and have to carry that baby.
Yes, and equally, there are millions of women who regret having their abortions. I mean, so what is the argument? The argument is
I
that
honestly, I wanted to know about
I
the
agree.
5-year-old and if you
Yes,
would
I mean-
like your 5-year-old child to have a
No,
baby.
Of course, I would not like it. You are
Okay.
you are putting in an impossible moral situation of, would I be comfortable slitting the throat of a baby on an ultrasound machine?
It's not impossible because it has happened. And
Okay,
I guess 12 times, according to
12 times in 60 years. I mean, it's so insanely improbable for a 5-year-old to go through prepubescent puberty and then get impregnated because they were raped. It's like you have a much higher likelihood of, like, I mean, it's like much higher likelihood of winning the lottery twice than that happening.
Okay.
Just so we are clear.
Okay.
And again, but I answered your question coming in good faith. But would you agree then we can outlaw all other abortions except rape, life of the mother, and incest?
I wouldn't necessarily agree, but I would have to think more about that. But my main issues are with rape, incest, and life
And
of the
again,
mother.
my contention is that it doesn't stop being a human being just because of how that baby came into existence.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I am part of the Washington State rugby team here on
Wow,
campus.
That's
Yes.
a tough sport, man.
Yeah, we actually just won the conference, and
Wait, you the Pac-12 of two teams?
no, it's
So you beat Oregon State.
we're a club.
I'm trolling you.
sport.
I'm
I know,
trolling
I know.
you.
We're a club sport, so we make our own conference. But we just got invited to nationals, and we have no way to get there. So I was wondering if we could get some sort of fundraiser going, so we can compete in nationals in Washington.
How much
DC.
money do you guys need?
Like 10, 15 grand would do it.
Okay.
We just need to get there. We
Where-
just need,
wait,
we
now-
just need
you
to
don't
get
need to
there.
get back?
No. Yeah, we do need to get back too.
Where is
we
nationals?
can cover Washington D.C.
Oh, DC. Wow.
DC. It wouldn't be fun to compete for
When
the
is it?
national championship in our capital. It is next weekend.
Next weekend.
Next weekend. I think that you can do it. If anybody can do it, Charlie, it's you.
Okay. If you can raise half, I'll put up the other half.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
But not here. Go, like, if you go figure it out, we'll our show, the Charlie Kirk show, we'll put up. But you better not do this like private skimming stuff. Like, of
course not, sir.
We need receipts. Like you're
Yes,
flying
sir.
Spirit Airlines. Like
Yes,
you
sir.
know.
Yes,
you know,
sir. We will
staying days in,
We will raise half the money to get to nationals. Thank you.
and then we'll match it. All right. Our team
Great.
will be in touch.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You better be telling the truth. All right. Not some sort of like he's launching a crypto coin or something, Yeah, and then talk to our team. I'm telling you, you match half, we'll do half. You'll be at nationals, okay? By the way, why doesn't the school pay for this? They got enough money. Why am I have to do this? But
Our athletics are kind of low on funds right now, and we're not sponsored by athletics. We're sponsored by the rec, which
it's
doesn't
all
get
this
a lot.
bureaucracy. You guys,
Exactly.
don't get me started. But why don't they put that sociology professor on leave and use that money to have you go to the finals, right? Anyway, so we'll do half.
Hello there. I'd like to say thank you for doing this. I enjoy talking politics with my friends and everything, so I thank for this open environment. However, I think a big issue is that people just kind of find like a diehard and they're not willing to like say that they're wrong in certain aspects. So I'd like to ask you, just as a preface to all of this, will you admit that with Trump, what he ran on, from my perspective, was largely the fact that he would end wars and the economy would be better rather instantly is what he was rather pushing for. However, the wars are still going on. We're still seeing crimes against humanity in Palestine and such forth. So will you admit that he was lying, or at least didn't come through on his promises?
No. I mean, he's trying to end the Russian-Ukrainian war. He resisted. Here's how amazing Trump is. Israel was like, we're going to go bomb Iranian nuclear sites, and Trump's the one that stopped Israel from doing that. It's a big deal. You can acknowledge that's big, right?
Yes.
And so, as far as the economy, we're 80 days in. Gas prices are down, egg prices are down. We're going to see a major tax bill. How about we can agree? Let's talk in 1 year about the economy. Cool? Because it's way too early. Let's give Trump a year.
See, I would like that, but the issue that I have with it is the fact that he said the second he gets in, like within the first week, I can't remember what his exact words were. He's like, "I'll make a call to Russia and we'll get this ended." That was his promise. Is what I'm having an issue with.
Fair enough. Yes, there is political bravado at times, but to Trump's credit, we are closer to ending this war than escalating it. Steve Witkoff just sat down with Vladimir Putin, who is his special envoy, for 5 hours. It's an incredibly difficult situation to end, and I do want to see the wars end. I mean, you and I have an agreement. I happen to be on the pro-Israel side, and I think what's happening to some of the civilians in Gaza is terrible. I want to see that come to an end.
The rape and the murder and everything, yes.
Well, I don't. Do you have evidence of IDF soldiers raping women?
There's a case with the rape, and that was discussed in the Israel government, I do believe, with some of their official members.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that, but yeah. So sure, of course, I don't support that.
My second main thing is I struggle to see how Trump is for like the lower class of people. We see like with his tax. I know you've talked about it a bit with this tax cut, and hopefully that comes through and that helps us. However, the tax cuts that push for the top 1% of people, compared to him cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and processes that help millions of Americans, I'm failing to see how that's. And under the disguise of saying that it's for money, but he's allowing less money to come into our
let's go through the three things that Democrats are going to vote against. No tax on tips. That's a working class thing. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security. Those were big. Those three.
And I'm okay with those being
I got
taxes,
that.
yes.
And he's actually proposing a tax hike on the 1%. I don't know if it's going to pass, but he has also he's also suggested closing the carried interest loophole. So there's a little more there than you might always hear on the media.
From my knowledge, though, most of the taxes that he has provided, though, largely favored the top percent over the middle class, though, unless I'm wrong. But to my
no
knowledge,
tax bill has passed.
Yeah, not this term, but especially in like his past terms.
His first term, it was largely a middle class tax cut. But yes, you are not totally incorrect. Wealthier people also paid less, which, by the way, I think less taxes for everybody is a good idea.
Well, then may I ask you, what do you think about like his cutting Medicare and Medicaid that help millions of Americans?
That has not happened yet.
Department of Education.
All of this is an ongoing discussion. So, and also, he's not touching Medicare at all. Medicaid is very complicated. There's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of double dipping. So I do think we need to reform Medicaid. Because Medicaid is a distinctly different thing than Medicare.
See, I can agree with you on that on the reform part. Sorry. However, hasn't, to my knowledge, he has yet to bring actually a plan of reform. I've talked about it with some of my friends that are Republican as well, and they said, yes, that Medicare has its issues. And I completely agree. I think a lot of our government needs reform. However, a big of my issue is he's yet to propose a plan to actually reform it. His main thing is just let's get rid of it per se. Same with like the Department of Education.
He's not saying to get rid of Medicaid. That is not correct. But we should get rid of the Department of Education for sure. Like that, like 100%. That
Can I ask why?
Yeah, well, since the Department of Education, have education standards and outputs gone up or down?
I believe they've gone. It depends on what standards you're talking about, though.
Everything. Reading scores, test scores, literacy, our standing in the world. The Department of Education is the Department of Education Administration. There are 21 million people that work for the government in this country. 11 million of the 20 million work in education. Do you know 7 million of the 11 million are not teachers? They're administrators. They're desk workers. They're paper pushers.
Yes.
This is largely pushed by the Department of Education.
Yeah.
It is the Department of Bureaucracy.
Then why not reform instead of harm people in the process of trying to cut it?
There is nothing good the Department of Education does that cannot be sent to other departments.
You're telling me there's not one thing in the entire Department of Education of helping students whatsoever, food
that
costs,
can't
et cetera.
also be sent to other departments. See, that's the key. That's what you don't hear in the media. He's not getting rid of school lunches. He's sending that to the Department of Agriculture. He's not getting rid of student loans. He's sending that to the Department of Treasury.
But will it be handled properly?
Better, way better. What do you think? A education bureaucrat or a sophisticated financial expert at Department of Treasury is better at understanding student loans?
Department of Treasury.
Yeah, so he's actually making it better and more efficient. So you think he's just deleting stuff. In reality, he's making things more efficient and sending them to other departments. Does that make sense?
In a sense, I get that, but at the same time, the main worry is that there's no actual like solid concrete plan of like hope.
course there is. You just don't know it.
The entire thing's a big gamble. Same with our economy and the tariffs and everything.
You
It's a
think
big
there's
gamble.
no plan, but you got to dig deeper, man. This administration is far more sophisticated than you think. You think that they're just shooting from the hip and that they're just doing random stuff. These are incredibly talented, smart people that have thought this through, that are very methodical in how they're going about it.
I believe it's Linda McKinnon, Department of Education Secretary.
Linda McMahon.
Linda McMahon.
The WWE great.
But you're saying she's incredibly knowledgeable about
I mean,
this.
she did run the SBA. She ran the Small Business Administration. That's big. She ran a multi-billion-dollar business. I mean,
then into the Department of Education was a different stance, though.
Yeah, I mean, who would you rather have run the Department of Ed? Like a teacher who's never run anything, or someone who's run a multi-billion-dollar business? Probably the business operator.
Rather someone with a bit more education into actual education processes.
Not really.
I'm not saying like a teacher,
We had
but you
former
have to have
teachers.
government
Arnie
knowledge.
Duncan was the head of Department of Education under Obama, and he was a former teacher. He was a disaster. Our education department and our education standards in this country are some of the worst on the planet in the industrialized world. It's largely because we centralize things in D.C. that should be sent to the states and sent to parents and sent to families in local areas. And the president's making good on his promise to abolish the Department of Education.
But in countries like in Europe, like Sweden, they have a much higher education level than we do, and they have their government has a much more involved program in the school
They
system
actually have full school
themselves.
choice in Sweden. Do you know that? Do you know they have full school choice in Sweden? Full school vouchers. You can choose any school of your liking.
But the government also is more involved in their schooling. I
Yes
believe.
and no. We don't have school choice in this country. You guys don't have school choice in Washington. The money doesn't follow the child here in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
You know they don't have overbearing teacher unions in Sweden. So you got to do a little more research on some of this stuff. It sounds good. It feels good. It might be a meme you saw on social media. There's a lot more depth on this stuff. I encourage you to keep doing your research. Thank you for your time. Got to get to the next question. Thank you. And again, if you guys disagree, you guys can come to our wonderful team here, and they'll work you through the train here.
Hey, I'm from Germany, so thanks for complimenting on our innovation.
Guten Tag.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hi.
Deutschland über alles.
No, not quite.
You don't like your country? No?
I love my country and I'm a patriot.
No, I'm kidding,
but yes, I'm just visiting my in-laws here, so it's awesome to be here today. I think it's great to have open debates for functioning societies, and so it's awesome. I have a question about NATO and the Western alliance more broadly. And please don't put me in the European box immediately, because I would say that Trump's first term was great as far as foreign policy goes. I think that our Chancellor Merkel did a really bad job with NATO and actually also with domestic policies. But now that we have the Ukraine war and Germany is actually paying more than 2% of their GDP to NATO and many other members as well, Trump is now raising it to 5%, which I think is, like, maybe you call it the art of the deal, but I think it's unreasonable. And the US themselves don't spend 5%, so I don't know quite where he's going. But my main question is about Ukraine, Russia, which you guys like bordered on a little bit. You said like Stephen Witkoff did a great job and he's like been there for 5 hours. He's been there several times now. I mean, they were bargaining also in, I think, Doha with the Secretary of State. Yes. So I don't see how the peace through strength that I actually think Trump did in the first term is working out this time. And my worry is that the second term is going downhill really fast as far as foreign policy goes, because as far as Russia goes, they've so far just answered with further attacks on civilians as well on Palm Sunday, which even Trump called a mistake. And after golfing at Mar-a-Lago,
that is true.
Yes, and after golfing at Mar-a-Lago with a European leader, he was at least like softly threatening with further sanctioning the Russian economy, but he hasn't done it so far. And I don't understand why Trump, if he thinks he's a strong leader, after proposing a 30-day ceasefire, which Putin disagreed, then he wanted to narrow it down to just energy infrastructure, which is in his interest, because the Ukrainians have a couple of points where they're actually pretty good. One of them is energy infrastructure. So it was a bad deal, and he already got concessions from the Ukrainian side.
What's the question? Yeah.
Well, the question is, why, if Trump says that he's a strong leader, why is he not getting Putin to agree with him? And why do you see that they are closer to an agreement than they have been during the Biden administration? I don't think Biden did a good job because they had no strategy. But
Biden wasn't even talking to him. I guess, so as a German, let me first comment on the NATO thing. Trump proposing 5% is to try to make good on the many years where Germany was under 2%. So for many years we paid for NATO, and this is just catching up for that.
Correct.
That's his belief. Fair or unfair, that's his belief. But you can agree, for 30 years we've paid the lion's share of NATO costs. America has. And I don't hate NATO. I inherently don't think it's a bad idea. I do think we shouldn't have NATO expansion. I think that's been a mistake. But
NATO's expansion as far as Ukraine, or also as far as
Ukraine and
Sweden?
Finland, I think, was a mistake. Finland is very Russian in a lot of ways, and you can even acknowledge
yes, but I mean Russia pushed them into NATO.
I know, but Finland was even neutral in World War II. I mean, like, it was like Finland is a very edge case. You as a European would respect that.
Of course, it's fine.
It's fine.
Let's not get into.
I don't want to get into that, but I would just ask the question, because this is the most important question. Here's the way that we look at it as Americans. Through door A, we can continue this war. We will give more armaments to Ukraine, and 1 million more people are going to die. For what?
Not helpful, I agree, yes.
Yeah, and then door B is to try to find some settlement. Do you think we should try door B more than door A?
Absolutely,
Okay,
but
we
I think
agree.
he should put the same type of pressure on both sides.
So what- yeah, fair
because
enough.
right now, I think he should just sanction Russia and see where they're going. Because right now, we
I don't
just
think
push
you're
them
incorrect.
further.
I don't think you're incorrect. Russia thinks they're winning, and they are.
And they are,
So, but the question is then, what else can we do to Russia? Because Joe Biden did so much. I mean, they dumped their dollar bills from their reserves. I mean, there's very little that we can continue to do to Russia
I think
outside
you
of
could-
supplying more weapons.
Yeah, but like for example, supplying more weapons. Like there's like so.
That's a no-go for us.
But why can't you supply more weapons as long as Putin doesn't agree to a ceasefire? I'm great,
Because
and I think a
we have a
ceasefire would
different
be
view
good.
of the war than Biden. We don't think it's primarily America's responsibility to hold up Ukraine.
Okay, I agree with that.
So we just have
but
a
now-
different philosophy.
Okay, that's fine. But like you bordered on the horrible withdrawal from Kabul. I think that no matter what Biden did, like this is what Trump inherited. So that's how democracies work. So he can't do anything about what his predecessor did. Now he's in this place. And I think that if you just drop out and after saying in 24 hours, I'll solve this war and not getting it fixed and just saying we'll stop being active there at all, I think that will have major ramifications for all the other
Let me ask you, though.
foreign policy.
Let me find where I think we disagree. Do you think we should grow closer to Russia or further away from them diplomatically?
Well, I think you can grow closer to them, but
Okay, we
I
agree.
think you should definitely not grow closer to them as long as they're still fighting civilians and as long as they still keep the war up. Because I think
the
you
bombing that Russia did is morally indefensible. I
yes,
agree.
but so like they are talking, and especially JD Vance. So a quick question:
I like
do you
JD a
think,
lot.
Do you think that Trump and JD Vance are in alignment as far as their foreign policy?
Yes.
100%.
I mean, they're not the same carbon copy person, but JD serves at the pleasure of the president. I'm sure JD is a little bit more cautious than the president is at times.
Yes, he's less of an interventionist,
Correct.
and I think that, to be honest, I think that Trump is a pragmatist, and JD Vance is much more ideological about this whole thing, which you saw a little bit with the Houthi attack, like with the Signal Gate, where apparently he did not want to do the same thing as Trump did, and I just don't see how this is in any way in America's interest.
How do you think?
If you're perceived as a weak partner to negotiate with, because so far,
So your opinion-
the Europeans are definitely thinking, and I think many more other countries as well, that Putin is playing with Trump, and I don't think Trump should be played with.
It's a tough situation. I got it. Thank you for that. And I can tell you're coming from a good perspective. The difficulty is that even bringing the Russians to the table has taken a lot of concessions because of how far apart this was at the beginning. And now I don't think it would be unreasonable for Trump to be able to use other non-military measures to try to remind Putin that he can't just bomb civilians and we're actually trying to end this war.
I agree.
Where we as America Firsters come, though, we want to see this war ended. And we want this war machine to not be sending more armaments and missiles to a foreign country where a lot of people are going to continually unnecessarily die. And the problem is that as a European, this is much more close to home than it is for us, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I agree with you mostly. I just don't know. Would you also like to have a normalization of the relationships to Russia,
Yes,
even if they continue the war?
It's contingent. That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, because I think if you do that, and that's my main point about NATO, I understand that the states say we want to focus on the Indo-Pacific because that's way more important to you guys than Europe, which I understand.
And for Germany too. I have to say,
agree.
I think China's a bigger threat to Germany than Russia. I really do. I know you might disagree, but
Well, I agree as far as like infrastructure goes. I don't agree as far as the conventional
ground war.
But I agree with you. But I think that what Trump is doing right now is first of all pushing the Europeans more towards China. This is more like as far as the trade stuff goes.
That's an unintended consequence. You're probably right.
Yes, but I also think that you're pushing Russia further to China because I think so. I think that Putin right now thinks
it's too
he
early.
gets away with anything.
Too early to tell. So
well, but why do you think that? Why do you see goodwill in Putin? Like he could have agreed to that 30-day ceasefire, no problem. It was more to.
I'm not
his
even saying I
interest.
see goodwill in Putin. I'm willing to give peace a chance because that has not been tried. And here's the most frustrating thing. We had a peace deal on the table a week into the war in Istanbul, Turkey, and Tony Blinken and Boris Johnson blew it up.
I agree.
I know, and there would have been less land for Putin, and it would have been no lives lost. And so this whole thing is so maddening. I trust the president to try to find a resolution here. And as a European, I think you're making very substantive good points. We just have a very different perspective. Why? We've spent $250 billion, right?
Which you might get back with the mineral deal, but we'll see.
Yeah, but also we've been invaded on our southern border while we did that. So it kind of plays into this idea that our leaders care about the foreign and not the immediate. And not to, insult your country, but there has been...
Please don't.
No, I'm just saying, for like 20 or 30 years, the Europeans have been a little asleep at the wheel.
Yes.
They've said, America will protect us, we could pay money for other stuff.
Yes, but now
that is changing.
But now we are leveling up.
Finally, but
we just passed a $1 billion debt deal.
I know, but you and I both know Germany does not have a military-industrial base.
No, but this is my thing. You should have Europe, as far as the economical power on your side, to be able to fight China. Because if you don't have the leverage of saying Europe is on our side in the Indo-Pacific, I think that'll have a major backlash.
That's a smart point. I'm not even disagreeing with that. I want to give President Trump opportunity to end this war, and I'll just repeat this. You have to give him a little more credit, in my opinion, in your calculus of how hard it's been to even get Putin to talk. Because this was an icy relationship.
I agree with that.
No, I know. I just want you to factor that in.
I just think he should pressure them and finally put sanctions on.
Got it.
Can I ask one more question about tariffs?
Very quick,
okay.
yeah.
So this is like a little bit related because I think you can't quite separate tariffs and foreign policy and other wars. So do you think that Trump is going to get a lot of good deals in the next 90 days?
Oh, yeah. The deals are already happening, yes.
Which ones?
Japan, South Korea. He tweeted out today, or Truth or whatever, Vietnam is coming down the pike. And by good deals, we mean more American products sold in these countries.
Yes, I think that's a little bit one-sided because you guys have the great advantage to like export services all over.
Germany has a lot of it. No. You guys have BMW and Mercedes and Volkswagen and Bayer and Hugo Boss and Lufthansa.
I agree.
You guys have some really good companies.
You mentioned BMW.
Yeah,
they
Bavarian
export
Motor
a lot from here.
No, that is true. But if they're made here, that's tariff-free.
Yes, but
it's zero tariff. But
okay.
BMW, to your credit, BMW makes a ton of product in America.
Yes. And last question.
But can I ask a question?
Yes.
How many Ford Explorers do you see in Germany?
None, but they're also a little too wide because our streets.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
you Germans like your little skinny cars on the Autobahn, right?
Okay,
let me ask you a funnier question. Do you see any Teslas?
Yes, we do. Now with stickers, I bought this before Elon went crazy.
Oh, really? In Germany? Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, one question about Elon Musk. So do you agree that it would be a good idea, which he put forth when he was in Italy, I think 2 weeks ago, to have a free trade zone between America and the
Potentially,
EU?
only if the EU makes a big promise on LNG.
I think they would be totally willing to.
That's the condition.
Yeah.
If Europe is going to be able to use America as their sole energy source, I think it's a good idea. And if Germany will drop its tariffs on our imported goods.
I think they're willing to.
Okay.
And I think
that should be the goal.
I think Trump should have a good relationship with Merz and they should stop supporting the AfD.
There's one last thing. Europe has to stop this crackdown on free speech.
Yes, but look, J.D. Vance's speech was good, the first third, but he takes like one instance from Britain.
No, it's not one instance, my friend. No, in Germany, there are hundreds of instances where they are knocking on doors and arresting people for hate speech violations because they're racist.
With the abortion clinic would have never happened in Germany, and Britain has a far left government. This is not even an abortion
clinic. This is for racist speech.
No, but I'm saying what J.D. Vance quoted in his speech at the Munich Security Conference.
I got to get to the next question.
He should have talked about security.
I think Europe needs to become a much better protector of freedom of speech than it currently is.
I agree with that, but I don't think you should put all the European countries in one box.
Germany's pretty bad.
I think you are wrong about that.
All right.
You should
I'm coming
have
to
good
Germany in
messages.
May. I hope to see you there.
Thanks for talking.
Thank
to
you
me.
very much. Hello.
Hi, Charlie. How are you doing?
Good.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk to you about Elon Musk. So I just had like a hypothetical question. So if Elon Musk was 3 inches inside of you and you were 3 inches inside of Trump, which way are you moving?
You guys waited so far in line, and I got that question yesterday. Next question. Thank you.
I missed it.
He thought that was funny.
That's good. That's good. Thank you.
Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. Asana AI can spot roadblocks and assign work to keep everything on track. That's how work gets handled. Visit us at asana.com.
Okay, fist length. Hi, Mr. Kirk. My name's Hudson. I wanted to ask, how is cutting U.S. foreign aid beneficial to the United States?
Well, more money for us. And also not funding countries that hate us, primarily, some of which. We should not be the world's piggy bank.
Well, I feel like soft power is very beneficial as against like providing weapons. It's a very good foreign policy tactic over just strong
good.
army.
Has it worked?
I don't. Has it worked?
The last 20 years, has soft power across the world, been, which is a neoconservative talking point, has that been good for America and good for the world?
I feel if we could prevent the death of even a small number of people, it's beneficial. Giving HIV vaccines, any other vaccines is very beneficial. It can prevent the COVID 2024, 2026 if it was to happen in Africa. I think just stopping another COVID and then another stock market fall would be very beneficial.
Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with USAID money, but
it has everything to do with it. Don't we give a ton of money to Africa for vaccinations of USAID?
Well, that's very little. That's a very little portion of it. But most of the money are just blank checks to their governments. They're just here, go spend the money. I mean, in Iraq, we spent $20 million on, a Sesame Street equivalent in Iraq. I mean, the stuff is so ridiculous.
Sesame Street, the ring road?
Yeah.
Wait, the Sesame Street, like the.
Yeah, the cartoon.
I know what you're talking about.
So I mean, look, I asked the question: has it worked? The last 20 years, did soft power work in Libya? Did soft power work in Venezuela? Did soft power work in Somalia? Did soft power work in Iraq? Did it work in Syria? Did it work in Yemen? Did it work in Ukraine? Ukraine's a great example of USAID money. We've pumped tens of billions of dollars into Ukraine. Hasn't really worked. So this idea that we as the continent,
I don't agree with your argument because
well, then show me an example where it's worked.
Well, Ukraine is still standing.
Barely. I mean, Ukraine's a destabilized, corrupt country where oligarchs have fleeced their citizens for 30 years because of U.S. taxpayers. 20 years.
Well, I can imagine there's quite a bit of corruption in Ukraine and
quite
Russia. A bit. Corruption can be a part of a system. However, I think without the United States, Ukraine would have fell quite quick without the amount of money given.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I don't think Vladimir Putin would have invaded if we didn't say Ukraine was going to go to NATO, which we said multiple times. We largely provoked Vladimir Putin's evil invasion of Ukraine. It was largely provoked by us.
By us?
Yes.
But aren't we quite powerful?
Yes, and we shouldn't have provoked it, is what I'm saying. We should have grown closer to Russia, not further away from them.
I think Russia's always been a pretty bad faith ally throughout history. I think history.
Right. I mean, we did work with them to defeat the Nazis, right? So
yeah, and then immediately after that, they were the enemy for 50 years, and
even though, and the question is whether it should happen. Thank you for your time. I got to get to this question.
Thank you.
Who wants hats? Everybody, let's do some. That was a lot of them. Okay, yes.
Okay. Hi, how you doing? My name is Caden, and I was wondering, how do you feel? Yeah.
Quiet down, guys. Oh yeah, all the way in the back. We'll throw one. I'll get one back. Let me see if I can get one. It's pretty good. Yep.
How would you feel about a legal or a federal, all-wide federal legalization of marijuana?
Yeah, I have the most unpopular opinion on weed.
Okay.
I don't think it should be legalized.
Okay. So earlier, you stated. Oh, okay. So, would you like to be taught by somebody that
taught?
Thank you. Would you like to be taught by somebody that that smokes marijuana?
No.
Earlier, you said that Joe Rogan would be a better alternative to listen to, if I believe you said 50 hours, that it would be a better alternative to most of these college teachers here.
Again, he ain't doing the teaching, man. He's doing the asking.
Well, you just said he would be a good person to learn from.
His podcast, for sure, yeah. And by the way, for the record, Joe Rogan does a lot harder drugs than marijuana,
Well,
okay?
that's what I'm saying.
He does psychedelics, he does LSD, he does mushrooms, he does all sorts of crazy stuff.
Well, this is going on YouTube, so I didn't know what I could. This is going on YouTube, so I didn't know what I could say.
No, it's fine, yeah, I mean, but I think it's a fun point that you're making.
Yeah, but what's your reasoning for marijuana not being...
I mean, okay, so I guess let's first just let's just go through what we were promised. We were promised that when weed was going to get legalized, less kids were going to use it. Do you agree? That was a talking point?
I mean...
Are less kids doing marijuana? More kids are doing marijuana, number one. Number two, we were told, like, hey, this is going to prevent them from doing other drugs, and all drug overdoses are going to go down. Are all drug overdoses going down? No. They've been going up dramatically the last couple of years. Number three, they're like, hey, if we legalize weed, it's going to weaken the cartels. Cartels are stronger and richer than ever. They just went to harder drugs and trafficking human beings. Fourth, which I think is an important point, which is, do you want to try to get drug usage up, or do you want to try to get drug usage down? And I'm like, some people say up, like, fine. I don't actually want to live in a hyper-medicated, substance-addicted society. Personally, I see what it's done to my home state of Arizona. It has brought in more crime. It's brought in more homelessness. It's brought in a lot of kids that got unnecessarily addicted to these substances. And so, yeah, I mean, look, I think for all those reasons, we should not rush to try to make more things that are illegal legal, which is different than alcohol, which is currently legal to make it illegal. But again, if we want to talk about alcohol is really bad for you too. Like, way too many people drink. People are very violent when they drink. There's a lot of domestic abuse. So
how come alcohol is able to be legal though when weed's not? When like the effects of alcohol make somebody more violent.
Can we agree alcohol should be illegal?
Yeah, but they tried that and it didn't work out.
No, it actually worked pretty well. You should all study prohibition. It actually worked pretty well. Violence, crime went down. Like there was a lot just happened, and a lot of people
there was
wanted.
Actually a bunch of like uprisings in a bunch of like cities.
Yeah, there were uprisings. Fine. It's like, I guess people need to be able to medicate themselves. That's fine, I guess. But is that going to make us super competitive against China? Is like more kids doing dope and more kids doing weed? It's a lot. And by the way, it makes you a lot more paranoid, a lot more anxious than people realize. I actually just did a podcast with Bill Maher yesterday where he was smoking weed the entire time. It's like secondhand inhaling this crap.
How was it?
Awful, actually. And look, again, if you privately want to do it in your own home, I guess you have a right to do it. But we are trending towards a society that is promoting and elevating series of substances that do not make you hyperproductive. Do you know what Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson and myself all have in common? We don't drink alcohol. We don't do any drugs. The most hyperproductive people that I find that are actually able to achieve stuff are not the ones that are like, doing LSD or smoking dope. Like, yeah, I guess Joe Rogan is an exception to that. But like, I'll just be honest, guys, you're being sold a bill of goods if you think it's good for you.
Well, it's not necessarily like something that's like I would be taking for medication. Like, I mean, not me personally, because I don't have, some sort of disease or like injury to where I would need to take that. But it's just sort of like a fun recreational thing for people.
Has it made the state of Washington a better place to live?
I wasn't old enough during.
No, it's fine. I mean, again, I've seen
so
states that were once really great, and I don't think weed has made it a better place to live. I just don't. You can say there's other factors. Of course, there's other factors, but
I don't think weed has actually had like that drastic of an impact. It like hasn't.
I mean, again, more kids are doing it. We have more hospitalizations. We have more 13, 14-year-olds that are doing edibles. We have more people. By the way, it makes you very paranoid, and you can get a lot. It screws with your brain in a way that
people do in excess. Yeah, of course, everything in moderation.
Again, the right amount of weed is none, and the right amount of drinking is none.
Yeah.
You don't need to go through life medicated all the time. It's actually pretty awesome being sober.
Well, so I'm saying not all the time, but you know.
Yeah, again,
in moderation.
I'm of the standard that we treat our society way too much like infants, and as if you need to always have a substance in your body where you can actually be really successful being sober.
Okay. Well,
so,
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Yes, we'll give him a hat. Let me see if I can get. Oops.
Thank you.
There you go. Hey, I almost got on his head. Yes, sir. Also, if you guys disagree, you guys can get work through the line here. Yeah.
Just want to thank you for coming out here and answering all these questions to start off. My biggest problem with Donald Trump is I feel like throughout his political career, he's built it around just degrading, belittling, and insulting anybody who disagrees with him. I strongly believe that a house divided against itself cannot stand, and I think his approach to politics in the United States is making us more divided, and I think in the long term we will see repercussions for that.
Okay, what's the question?
Well, whether or not you agree with that assessment of
No,
that
I
situation.
don't. We won the election, so I mean, like, what is the relevant question, though?
Well, the relevant question is, do you think that approach to politics and where the stigma is right now is going to be dire in
No, I think
years
it's
coming?
somewhat of a miscategorization. I mean, are there things that he says that I wouldn't say? Is there a style that he employs that I don't employ? You see how I do things. It's not always like that.
Right.
But can you acknowledge he also keeps his promises? That's pretty good, right?
Well, I mean, not necessarily all his probably. The war was supposed to end on day one. The war didn't end on day one.
I mean, again, there is some political bravado to some of this stuff, but the border is secure, right?
Well, it's more secure now.
No,
yes,
it's totally secure. We have literally nobody coming across the southern border. I mean, so he in the first term he kept promise after promise after promise after promise, and so I guess what would you prefer? Someone like Donald Trump that has a style you don't like, or someone like George W. Bush that has a style you like and was a terrible, awful, lying president?
Well, it's less. I mean, the style is going to turn into big demonstrations that we see across the country, where it becomes vulgar and it becomes difficult to work with one another. I mean, if you look at you can pick January 6th, or you could pick riots on the left side.
You saw this kid that got punched by a professor here for wearing a Trump hat?
No. But
it's the other side doing it. We're not doing that.
But it's both sides. Well, okay, January 6th is an example of that happening.
Okay, how about
on the right,
something
but
within the
also-
last 3 years? Anything within the last 3 years.
Within the last 3 years.
You can't name a single example of right-wing violence in the last 3 years.
I mean,
we're incredibly peaceful. No, seriously, you can't name an example. But I can name Tesla dealerships being burned, death threats every day against Tulsi Gabbard and President Trump. Oh, I don't know, President Trump getting shot on the 13th of July in Butler, Pennsylvania. So I just find it to be just a little bit like outrageous that well, it's Donald Trump dividing the country. I know that he got shot. I know that they want to kill him, and I know that he's been keeping promises. I know that the left is trying to murder us in the streets and punching our students in the face, and I understand that they're hunting everybody with a Trump supporting hat down. But it's somehow Trump. So I mean, come on, man.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. I think what you're confused
What
about.
are you saying?
That's what I'm about to say. What I think you're confused about is I'm not saying that I'm in support of what's happening on the left. I think the kid that got punched out in front of the coup, awful situation. I think burning down Teslas, creating violence on the left side, I think that's an awful thing to do. I do agree with that. But I think that Donald Trump, and I mean the President of the United States, ultimately has some form of a responsibility to try to unite people. And I think that the stigma on both sides is just rising up. And I think that's as a result of the leader we have now. And also the final point, just on January 6th, just because January 6th happened 4 years ago opposed to 3, doesn't make it any less significant, this conversation.
Again, 90% of the people there did nothing violent. They walked into the Capitol. They said a prayer. They didn't touch a police officer. They didn't do anything with the windows. And if we want to talk about violence,
They did something with the windows. You see
again,
the videos of
less than 10. Again, like there were like maybe 50 people that were violent there, and over 2,000 people got arrested or convicted. The largest manhunt in federal government history. But again, while we're talking about mass violence and all this, like you remember the summer of 2020 where actually like material violent crime went up across the country? I know that you're not saying it's good.
I don't agree with
that. But I know, but it's just like what exactly is your issue with Trump? He says mean things.
Well, I mean, yeah, to some extent.
I mean, come on, man. You're more mature than that. It's ridiculous.
No, but to some extent, what the thing is yeah, you can dumb it down to he says mean things, but he antagonizes the other side so far to the point.
Come
where,
on,
like,
how?
No, but it's How?
Yes, how?
Anybody who disagrees
The guy,
with him,
they shot him. Oh, he's antagonizing them.
that's
They
not
try
what
to
I'm
put him
saying.
in jail for 700 years. Oh, he's
That's not what I'm
antagonizing
saying.
them.
I'm not. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
I'm
show
saying
me
prior to
examples.
that
Tell me
point-
exactly how Trump is antagonizing the other
I mean,
side.
well, it's not just the other side; it's Republicans as well.
Show
I
me.
mean,
No,
he gives
come on. Where are your
insults out.
examples?
Okay, well, I mean, from the Republican side, just as a specific instance, at a 2015 Iowa forum with John
That's
McCain.
10 years ago, man.
But he was 60 some odd years old 10 years
this,
ago.
This
Does
is
that
an
mean that we can
outrageous
just
claim. I mean,
disregard
can you name anything within the last decade?
that Donald Trump has done to divide
Well, I mean,
the
like
country?
seriously, it's like, oh, he's antagonizing. Well, there was a thing in 2015 at an Iowa.
Okay, well, just take the debate then against Kamala Harris, a fear-mongering example where he's talking about illegal immigrants coming over and eating the cats and dogs.
Well, how does that antagonize the other side?
Because it creates a situation where it seems like what's going on is worse than it actually is. It's offensive to a lot of illegal immigrants that look at that.
Oh, it's offensive to the people that broke into our country. I'm sorry, leave. You broke into America. I'm sorry that we're offending you. Oh, I'm so sorry. You broke into our country and that you're here illegally. Did I offend you? Oh, you don't eat dogs? Okay, then go back to Mexico. Sorry.
I meant to say legal immigrants. I apologize.
No, it's fine. But I mean, at some point, like, you got to admit, man, like, you're going to like nitpick on things that Trump have said when he is up an existential force that is trying to destroy this country as we know it, that is trying to debase everything we care about. Joe Biden let 10 million people into this country with no idea who they were. How is that not high treason?
I agree with you on the Biden administration's approach with the border was not the best, but then you can also point to when they really sat down and was like, okay, we need to make a bipartisan bill that's going to be
We didn't need the bill, though. That's the thing. It was a scam. He closed the border in 10 days. So you're believing the media propaganda. Biden never needed a bill. It was a ploy. Donald Trump did it with no bill in literally a week.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, yeah.
So then why did we need a bill?
Well, what I'm saying is that he tried to take strides to secure the border more, and Donald Trump.
That's a bunch of crap.
No, it's not. In the summer before the election, he pushed forward some policy working with Republicans that would secure the border. Donald Trump called him up and he said, "Listen, this is not going to be good for our election. Kill it."
That's not. Again, you believe so much of the media lies. In the bill, it would have allowed 5,000 people a day to come across the border. Do you know that was in the bill? And it turns out none of that bill was necessary because Trump just closed it on day one. Again, we didn't need a bill. We needed a new president. So I'm not even sure what to make of all this, except for the fact that, like, you instead should be coming up and be like, you know what? I'm so glad that we have President Trump fighting for us every single day, not nitpicking something he said 10 years ago at an Iowa forum. I reject the entire premise. I do.
All right.
I do.
And that's fair.
And
I'm sure you do.
So judge him for what he does and how he does it, which is every single day deliver on the promises for the American people.
Yeah. Well,
thank you very much. Got to get this question.
Thank you very
much.
you.
I'll try to throw in there. Any disagreements, guys, we can work through here. Yes. Yes, sir.
Hello there, Charlie Kirk. My name is Braden Lamb, and I just wanted to ask you one good question. Why should rapists benefit from spreading their genes into the gene pool?
Well, I don't think they should, but I think that human life deserves to be protected.
I agree.
It's not a reward for rapists. It's a universal human equality.
However, I don't think while the child morally should not be punished, the rapist benefits automatically from having the child spreading their genes in the gene pool.
Okay.
Now, I say this because as a pre-med student, I have to keep an open mind about other people's beliefs, and this is one of the things I would have to do in pre-med is consider someone who believes in abortion versus my own standard beliefs. I believe that if someone is raped and they have a child by that rapist, that abortion should be an option, but it should not be the first answer. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree. That's a fair opinion. Yeah, I mean, you have a right to that opinion, sure.
All right. You have any other thoughts on that, or is that about it?
That's about it. I think we've discussed that topic thoroughly today.
I about thought so as well. I just want to see that one tidbit.
Thanks. You
mind if I have a white hat for my sister?
Yes, sir. There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charlie
Yes, next
Kirk.
question.
Okay. Good afternoon. You touched on this earlier, but I wanted to go in deeper. I think all drugs should be legalized. I think you should go into like a Walmart or any convenience store and buy anything you want.
Okay. So how's that work in San Francisco?
Well, I think that's a different issue. That's out of the scope. I think drug usage is someone's choice. I think legalizing drugs is different. Than
So you
drug
think we
usage.
should be able to walk into Costco and get heroin?
Yeah.
Tell us more why you think that's a good idea.
I'm a libertarian, and I think we should just have access to anything I'd like anything that a man can create and cultivate. Why shouldn't I be able to?
Should you be able to have access to a thermonuclear bomb?
No, I think that's a bit
anything
extreme,
man
but-
created. Yeah.
I think that's a bit extreme, but
Okay, how about a howitzer?
I'm not familiar with that.
It's like a cannon.
Okay.
How about a rocket launcher?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's like things
No,
of
these-
mass destruction, though.
Heroin is a drug of mass destruction, man.
Yeah, I knew you're gonna go. I knew you're gonna go with that.
Yeah,
but
but prove your
I
point.
think,
How about this? Do you think fentanyl should be sold easily and openly in Walmart?
Yeah, I do. I'm a believer that there should be free markets, and I think also the legalization of drugs would solve a lot of problems, right? Like
where has that ever worked? Portugal tried it and reversed it.
I'm not sure. I don't know all about this, but I think Amsterdam's a good.
I wouldn't say that's a good example.
A good example. Well, I can't control what people do. I can't control what they do with their lives.
That's not true. You absolutely see the law is a teacher. That's not correct. When you make something illegal, it's harder to get, and usage rates go down. They don't disappear, but they go down. If all of a sudden you can get a Big Mac with a side of fentanyl, that's bad. That's dangerous. That's wrong. Because the law is a teacher.
But that's your choice, and we're taxing people on like sugar and alcohol. I think that's also an overreach. I just think the government's overreaching by legalizing.
You're far too absolutist in what you think is a choice. You believe in license. I believe in liberty. Liberty is the ability to do things that elevate, that grow, that prosper the human spirit. License to be able to do whatever dirty thing. Do you think prostitution should be legal?
I haven't really thought about it, but I don't really like prostitution in that.
But it's just two consenting adults. It's their choice, right?
Yeah, I guess like from a libertarian perspective, which I dabble with, I guess they'd probably think that's right. But morally, I don't think that's.
Do you like to spend time in cities where drugs are easily traded? Like, do you think Seattle is safe to go to downtown Seattle?
Okay.
Do you like spending time in downtown Seattle?
Yeah, I had an internship there, and the city's beautiful, and there's a lot of things to do. But
it was beautiful.
But I think, but again, that's their choice. And I feel like we're infringing on people's just choice to do things. And you know what I mean?
No. Because you have to end up living in a society. You have to end up living in a culture. You have to walk your kids, hopefully, through a park to not have to avoid hypodermic needles. You have to.
That's drug usage again, though. I'm just talking about legalizing drugs.
No, I got it. You understand? There's a correlation when you legalize it, drug usage goes up.
Yeah, I do. I understand that. I don't know. I think it's a lot safer. There wouldn't be as many overdoses. There wouldn't be fentanyl, and you could actually
There is zero evidence of this whatsoever, as exhibited by marijuana. Marijuana usage rates have gone up since we've legalized it. Therefore, if we legalize fentanyl, we legalize cocaine, drug use rates will go up. We should make it harder, not easier, to get substance that can kill yourself. By the way, how many people in rural Washington are overdosing from fentanyl? A lot. I'm sure a lot of you guys know friends that have overdosed from drugs in this part of the world.
But that's on spike drugs. Like if I were to buy cocaine and it's spiked with fentanyl,
No, you can overdose from cocaine. You absolutely can.
I know you can, but
on non-spiked cocaine, you can overdose from cocaine. You actually can. It's very possible. I know they tell you, it's just fine. It just gives you a little bit of a high. Yeah. You could non-spiked drug. Almost every drug you can overdose on except marijuana that is non-spiked. Also heroin. Are you kidding me? I mean, LSD. Not exactly good for you.
Well, I think there's benefits and cons. There's pros and cons to everything. But one thing I watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary on DMT, and I think that was very eye-opening and how that experience can benefit others. Like this guy, this alcoholic, went and did that experience, and now he doesn't drink. That's anecdotal, but.
Okay, I just encourage you to live out your own philosophy. You should have to go live in cities that don't treat that basically where all drugs are legal, like Portland and Seattle and San Francisco.
I don't think open. I agree with you. I think you should be able to do it in private. I don't think open drug use should be right, and I think it should be, but it's not being enforced, right? So why should we let our cities be ransacked but not legalize it and make it safer and make it regulated?
There is no safe fentanyl. There is no safe heroin. It doesn't exist.
But pure heroin, and if you sold it in a store, it would be safe, right?
Again, not only can you still overdose, let's just talk the more moral. What an ugly society that would be if heroin is considered to be something commercialized. As all of a sudden you're going to see heroin commercials. You're like, oh yeah, you think that your day is bad? It's okay. Go get a little bit of heroin at the local Walgreens. We laugh, but that's where we're headed. That's the society.
That's not where we're headed. You can keep living your life and living by your values.
The law is a teacher. The law should reflect morality.
Okay.
Definitionally. So, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Can I get a hat?
Yes.
Do you mind signing it?
I'll sign it. Yeah.
Can I get the red one?
Okay. Thanks. Charlie. Yes. Other questions that disagree? Go to the front. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Got it. Don't touch it. Okay. All right, Charlie, you had done a show on your or a segment on your show about Governor Tim Walz. You know, it was funny. It was cute. He was looking at the excuse me. It was looking at his podcast appearance with Gavin Newsom. He said he wanted to get into a fight. It was just goofy jesting. And, you know, you showed a video of him trying to shoot a shotgun. It didn't work out well, but I just figured...
He didn't know how to load a shotgun.
There you go. So my point is, though, I figured as a political commentator, you would prefer to have a substantive discussion about the economic policies that he has passed. And I have some listed here. Forgive me, the list is a little long, but it has price tags on what it would be estimated to cost to implement these policies in the United States. And I just would like to get your opinion on a few of them. Free breakfast and lunch for kids, making sure that children can eat in school.
That's not what it
$20 billion per year.
Bad idea.
Legalizing marijuana, I've gotten your opinion on that. That's a net savings of $8 billion per year. Carbon-free electricity by 2050.
Terrible.
$41 billion per year. We have 12 weeks paid family sick leave costing $45 billion.
Wait, is this what he did in Minnesota, or what he?
That's correct. It's what he did in Minnesota, and these costs are the projected costs of what it would cost to implement these things.
Keep working through the list, and then I have a question.
Okay. So banning gay deconversion therapy, a savings of $9 billion.
It's an attack on freedom of speech. How does that save $9 billion? You got to explain that one. So banning freedom.
Having the deconversion therapy.
No. Explain. No. Don't just read off the piece. Explain to me. Use your reason. How banning therapy saves $9 billion.
Okay. Let's go through the rest of the list. I'll come back to that point as well.
Okay.
Now, I still have a few more. Red flag laws. If someone says that if they want to shoot up a school, then the government has a right to confiscate that person's
That is not what a red flag law is, for the record. A red flag law is that somebody, like a spouse who's in a dispute, could wrongfully accuse their husband, who's a veteran, oh, he's violent or whatever, even though he isn't, and his rights get taken away. Or even worse, a husband can say it against his wife, and she's not able to protect herself. Red flag laws are not that at all. And by the way, if someone says they're going to shoot up a school, they're going to get arrested. They're not going to have their guns taken away.
This has happened in the past, and they have.
Yeah, you know
not
who's
been
friends with
arrested.
school shooters? Tim Walz is friends with school shooters.
Everyone
that's what he
brings
literally.
up that point, but let's go.
Yeah, they bring up that point because that's what he said. He's like, I'm friends with school shooters. That's really creepy and weird.
Of all of these are $161 billion per year. Now, if it comes to...
How is a red flag law save $61 billion a year in Minnesota? What is the GDP in Minnesota
like? It's not in the Minnesota cost. I'm saying that these costs added up for the entire United States to implement them $161 billion per year on average, right? There's some wiggle room there.
How would a red flag law save you $161 billion a year?
Everything collectively.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, everything collectively saves
Still, I don't believe it,
161. And everyone, I implore you, if you are in favor of those policies, please look up the price tags. But beyond that, you know, President Trump has expressed the desire to increase the military budget, not keep it the same, but increase it from $850 billion to $1 trillion. That cost right there could fund all of these policies. And, you know, the Pentagon has failed 7 audits in a row now, not counting for 60% of the money that it spends.
I agree.
And so why can you justify an increase in spending to this agency?
Actually, I don't support more money for the Pentagon, but that's fine. That's President Trump's position, not mine. But just one very simple question. If Tim Walz was such a good governor, why is Minnesota losing population?
I mean, I know his net favorability rating is positive.
No, but if all this is so good, why are people leaving Minnesota and going to other states? They're not flocking to Minnesota.
I fail to see if there's a direct correlation.
Of course there is. People vote with their feet. They go to Florida. They go to Texas. They go to Arizona. They go to states that are rational and sane and that don't have tampons in boys' bathrooms.
I would think that a lot of the people in this crowd would be in favor of just tampons being more readily accessible.
In boys' bathrooms.
As far as I understand it, that point has been disproven.
It's not disproven. He's tampon Tim for a reason. They're in boys' bathrooms.
Now, again, if
they're here on campus, I think in boys' bathrooms too. Yeah. So he's just not disproven. It's the liberal way. But no, you got to explain to me how, like, the gay conversion therapy, how that saves $9 billion a year. Like, what is that all about? That just sounds fake.
Well, there's the cost of maintaining these facilities, right? There's paying the employers who work at them. And
they're not funded by the government. These are private churches that do counseling. So how would like banning freedom of speech save $9 billion a year? It's on your list. It's like totally fake.
Even if that point is disregarded, what
how
about
does a red
everything
flag
else?
law save you money?
Less than $1 billion. Now,
But how? I mean, like, this is just like a fake list you put together. There's like
any of the policies can be searched with minimal research to find price
I'm not
tags.
doubting that the policies exist. I don't understand how you could say they save money.
Some of them, only 2 out of that list. Now, everything else has a cost associated with it, right? And what I'm saying is that these things are within our spending abilities to implement. And if you don't agree with the policies, I mean, that's fine. Things like legalizing marijuana, for instance, popularity-wise, polls 60 to 70%.
It costs states more than anything else. It costs more in hospital room visits, costs more in police. It has cost Colorado
There
a
are
ton of
costs. There are costs, but there are net savings. As in, whatever money is generated, whatever revenue is produced, will outweigh those costs.
That has not borne it out. So do you think you're a big Tim Walz fan? I can tell.
Based on his policies, yes.
Okay, great.
And, and as far as paying for them, I think the question that people usually mock in return to these ideas is, how do we pay for it? How could we possibly pay for these things?
Actually, not a single one of those are good ideas that should happen.
12 weeks paid family leave?
Not by the government, no.
By who?
The employer. In fact, you know what? Turning Point USA.
Incentivized.
Hold on. No, that's not true. We have 1,500 employees. We give 3 months full paid leave at Turning Point USA, and we are a micron of the size of Microsoft or Nvidia.
And everyone applauds because that's the correct policy, right? Yes. That's the correct choice. So to have this available for other companies, that should be a net positive. And with the cost that associated with it, it's within our capabilities to spend it. It's a policy choice not to spend for it, which is what I disagree with.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you. Are they still yammering over there? Jeez.
Can I move this? Thank you.
They're welcome to come up to the mic too, but
Okay.
they won't because they'll lose and they know it. Yes.
Okay. So I wasn't going to come up here, but I heard someone talking about how abortions are important because it takes rape babies out of the population. And I just wanted to say that by saying that, they are wanting to take out very important people. 4 years ago, I was raped by my father, and I chose not to have an abortion, and this is what came out of it.
I'm very sorry that happened to you. That is incest and rape. And tell us your little one's name.
This is Jonah.
And Jonah's a miracle from God.
He is.
But it was a terrible thing that happened to you. What is your message to people that say babies conceived in rape are not human beings?
They are absolutely human beings. They are made individually by God, and they can do some very important things. I believe that he'll grow up and he'll help people, and based on all of our experiences, we can try and keep them from doing the same thing that their parents did.
Praise God. Jonah is alive because of your courage. And you turned something evil into something good. So God bless you, and thank you so much. Hi, Jonah. You want a hat, Jonah?
Yes, please.
God bless you. Thank you. Give it up for Jonah and them. That's really great, everybody.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than just Peyton Manning. I'm also
All right, so I kind of have two questions at once. How do you support the Second Amendment on concealed carry and be anti-abortion? Because it's still taking a life. If you shoot someone in self-defense, you still took a life.
Okay, well, first of all, it's self-defense. Secondly, you know guns are used for other things.
Yeah, so that's why I say I have
And
two
an ownership,
questions.
you know, less than 1% of any gun owner will actually ever use their guns on another human being.
Right, that's why I say I have two questions, because I'm actually extremely pro Second Amendment, more than you, to the extent I believe that the main fighting force in America should be in the hands of the citizens, not in the government. So when the Founding Fathers wrote the Second Amendment, they didn't immediately go make an organized military. They left the guns in the hands of the people, and they just beat the British with personally owned firearms. And so if you can afford it, I think you should be able to have a tank sitting in your garage.
How about a thermonuclear weapon?
I would say not nuclear.
Why? How about, come on, man. People are the military. Why not nuclear weapons?
Because if you had it so it was all as the citizens that had the weapons, we wouldn't get into...
The citizens do have the weapons. That's first where you're wrong. Who's in charge of the military?
I guess that's a good point.
Yeah, we have a citizen-led military in this country. We do not have a military-led military. That's a distinction that is not always mentioned. The head of the military is a democratically elected individual by the people. Donald Trump never served in the military, yet he's in charge of the armed forces. Pete Hegseth, civilian. The people in charge, in fact, you can't serve to be head of the Department of Defense as a former general without a waiver from Congress. We have a civilian military. We do not have a separate military branch that there's permanently as a junta.
Yeah. I guess I was thinking, because if it was all citizen, like...
It is. That's the point. The commander-in-chief is a citizen by us. We do not have generals that just assume control of the U.S. government. It doesn't work that way. We're not Syria. We're not Libya. So your whole premise is wrong. We have a civilian-led military.
I guess I hadn't thought of that way. So... I guess you answered my question. Thank you
for being honest.
Can I have a hat?
Yes, thank you. And I want to just elaborate on that. It's a very important distinction, everybody, that our military, we have a joint chiefs that can only advise on it. We do not have a permanent military class that is technically calling shots.
All right, what's up? Charlie, right?
Yes, I think I've met you before. Maybe I'm wrong. No?
I don't think so. I don't come to these types of things. But, so, you know, a lot of liberal people say that Trump is authoritarian and different than any other president, right? And you disagree with that. So I was wondering, what's the smallest thing that Trump could do that would, you know, be different and authoritarian, and a warning bell in your sign that it's undemocratic, you know? Like, is it running for a third term? What is it?
So you want me to answer a hypothetical?
I want you to make a stance right now that you're saying, I'm never going to take this back. If any president does it, not just Trump, if Joe Biden did it, then it would be, and it can't be, you know, something like, oh, if they took out all the Republicans.
If Donald Trump did what Biden did, which was trying to use the Justice Department to imprison someone that he was running up against, I would speak out against that.
Okay.
When Joe Biden used the Department of Justice to try to put Donald Trump in prison for 700 years, that's the thing that dictatorships are made of. And no one spoke out against it in the media. We acted as if this was normal. Okay, Trump's just going to go to jail for 700 years because he's running for office. Regardless of who's president, you should not lock up the dissident leader. If Bernie Sanders runs for president, we shouldn't try to put him in jail. If AOC runs for president, we shouldn't try to put her in jail. It's bad for the country.
Yeah, so like a lock up crooked Hillary, that's like, yeah, like, I get it now. If you say lock up crooked Hillary, then that's like, you know, trying to imprison your dissident, someone who's going against you.
Yeah, well, she lost, actually.
Yeah, okay, so if you win, then it's okay.
Well, no, actually, we didn't control the Justice Department at the time. You following?
Yeah.
Right? Who was president in 2016?
Yeah, it was
Obama.
It was
Yes, when we said lock her up, that was a chant trying to say that someone who broke the law should be held accountable. There was no Justice Department that we controlled. It was Obama. Instead, you have to make... Do you think it was wrong that Trump was hunted down by Biden's Department of Justice for 4 years? Can you disavow that?
Can you say that Joe Biden himself ordered all of that?
Yeah, it was Merrick Garland, who's his attorney general. It's his government. It wasn't like a separate branch of government. So can you say that was wrong? That is dictator stuff. That is third world stuff. Can you say that? Yes or no? Can you say that that was wrong?
Come on, man. I heard that. Well, I hope you all have a good night.
No, was it wrong that they tried to put Donald Trump in federal prison for hundreds of years?
I think that they had genuine concerns. That's my point.
So you're a defender of a dictatorship. Here you come up, be like, oh, you know, what can you say about Donald Trump being an authoritarian? You're a defender of authoritarian practices. So the hallmark characteristic of an authoritarian government is we are going to put the person who is not in political power while we hold political power in jail. They're doing it to Bolsonaro right now in Brazil. Even Putin does it to dissidents in Russia. They do it in China. And yet you won't even say, nah, this is wrong. This is weird. This is not good.
So Joe Biden's a dictator.
Of course he was. He had authoritarian tendencies in this regard. His entire government did. To say that we're going to lock up the guy that's about to become president, we're going to use the justice system as a way to cheat, that's stuff of the third world. And we should agree that's wrong, right?
Okay, I will say one more thing. I think that saying, you know, the president beforehand was a dictator is not going to be good for the future health of this country because we voted for him.
What is incorrect with what I'm saying? Is it not a hallmark characteristic of third world dictatorships to use the system of criminal justice to put those people in jail? We march in the streets against Putin when he does it.
And Joe Biden is the same as Putin, yeah?
In that regard, absolutely. Yes, in that regard, actually, yes.
All right, Bet, Liddy, I hope you have a great night. I mean that sincerely. I do not think...
So you will not condemn Joe Biden or anyone for trying to put Trump in jail?
I don't think that Trump or Joe Biden has done anything for me as a U.S. citizen to see them as a dictator.
Okay, fine.
And I think that political separation is because of people like you, Joe.
Yeah, okay. Let's say that in the mic, coward. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I think that political separation is because you make your money off of your organization, which says Trump, Trump, Trump.
Okay, then
I love you. Have a good night, everyone.
Can you answer one more question?
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, exactly. Yeah, you don't get to keep that. Okay.
Get it to him.
Can you agree that it is
no problem, man.
It is wrong to put your political opponents in jail?
I believe it is wrong, and we saw that right before he got elected that they said turn it all off. I think that we should have had a much deeper investigation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Who wants a hat, everybody?
All right, I had a question about, I'm Tyler, by the way. I had a question. My girlfriend and I have differing political beliefs. We voted differently. We're both Christians. We have a lot of the same beliefs about how humans should be treated, abortion, that type of thing. But identity politics a little bit, not liking candidates based on their personality versus their policy kind of divided us. Also prioritization of policies, so she's a little more foreign helping, and I think we should be more focused domestically right now with the damage we've taken on the last 4 years. So how should we handle our relationship when we have a lot of the same values but differing political beliefs?
It's a really good question. So would you say that even outside of Trump, would you still largely agree on politics or no?
I think so. There's a little bit, I think that kind of plays into the identity piece. She tends to think that Trump's anti-immigrant, where I say he's anti-illegal immigrant.
Outside of Trump, do you think that she would vote more Republican than Democrat?
I don't think so, just based off of the foreign aid piece.
Do you want the truth?
Yeah.
Do not marry this girl.
Okay.
Do not marry someone that you cannot talk about the daily news with. You guys can laugh at it. Do not build a life with somebody where you cannot agree on what daily news channel to watch. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, we can talk about it, and we agree that a lot of the mainstreams on both sides.
You have to agree on it. I'm telling you right now, as someone who is married, when you have to instill values in a child, you cannot have the first elemental issue at 7 a.m. when you turn on the radio or a podcast to be disagreement. You got enough of that already in a home.
Yeah.
You need to have harmony.
Can I ask you specific issues? We agree on abortion. We've talked about immigration, and I've said, Trump's not anti-immigrant, he's anti-illegal immigrant, and we need to protect our own citizens, and we do need to bring in people from other countries, but only when we can actually give them opportunities. and we agree on that type of thing. So what would be dividing beliefs?
Well, I asked what was the revealing? I asked, would she vote more Republican than Democrat? And you said, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said not really.
Yeah.
And again, I'm only saying, build a life with someone where you have agreement on the macro issues. You can have disagreement on the micro issues. You need to agree on religion. You need to agree on eternity. You need to agree on political matters. You could disagree on what type of food you like. That's micro.
Yeah.
You could disagree on bedtime, right? You could disagree on the type of cars or where you vacation. That is micro. Macro, you must be in alignment. And understand, let's just take, for example, you're raising a child. And she's like, hey, you take the son in the morning and then he'll be with the mom. Is that kid going to hear two different things? A house divided can't stand. And so that's the point, is that there must be harmony, because if all of a sudden, for example, your wife will be like, well, Trump is XYZ, and you say, well, no, he's actually this. At some point, it's like they'll look and they'll say, well, there's disunity there. So I'm a big believer in macro agreement. I'm not trying to rock your world here, but do not try to change your girlfriend or your future fiance or wife politically. It does not work.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
This would actually be a good segue. So I was going to come here to Wazoo. I go to Spokane Falls Community College. I didn't want to live the party life, the college frat life, and I didn't want to be influenced by liberal universities. I wanted to kind of just work and go to school. And I think a big piece of her political beliefs, I hear her, she has an open mind to what I say, and she starts to agree with things. I think a lot of her life has been influenced by having two liberal parents, and then now she's in school.
Do not marry this girl. You do not want liberal in-laws. You do not want this. I'm telling you, run away, find somebody else. In-laws are very important. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you right now, as someone who's married with two kids, in-laws become embedded. You almost inherit them as pseudo-parents. And if all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, here's Thanksgiving, here's Christmas. You should be excited about Thanksgiving. You should be excited about it, not begrudging against it. And so if you want warfare in the family, because here's the sad truth. You want the more blunt truth?
Why not?
Does she have a good relationship with her dad?
Yeah.
She'll side with him over you. Every time.
Yeah.
She will leak to her parents against you if all of a sudden she feels as if the politics is going under the marriage. Her first love is her dad. And if she has a good relationship with her dad and she feels as if that you're bringing bad ideology in there, I'm sure your mind is turning a little bit because you might have seen some examples of this. She will go back to the liberal parents against you and you'll be on an island.
Yeah. And I say she has an open mind, I don't want to put her under the stereotypical liberal. And
I'm not saying that.
I will say it's
parents matter, though.
Yeah, but with her dad, I'll just give you this anecdote. Her dad knows how I voted, and and he's a pretty strong advocate against Trump. He hasn't ever brought it up to me. We've had a good relationship, and she has called out her dad for not having enough of an open mind, and she says that I'm torn between you two, and I think you should be less hateful.
I know. I'm telling you though. Tie goes to the runner, which means tie goes to the biology. Mm-hmm. And because it's unfair for her to choose which one or the other one. You might think I'm generalizing. This comes from over 10 years of seeing and doing this, that political agreement is a necessary foundational element when you want to try to build a family.
Got it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
You got a lot to pray about and wrestle with. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. I love my in-laws. My in-laws are great. They're all MAGA.
All right, so that green shirt guy from a little while back got me thinking, how in your mind can someone be a dictator when they willfully gave up their office?
You can act like a dictator. And Joe Biden didn't even know he was president, right? So for him, he might still think he didn't sign any documents. This guy's a joke, right? And by the way, dictators give up power a lot. Bashar al-Assad willingly gave up power in Syria. So that's a bad example.
Well, not necessarily. A dictator implies that there's assumed power there that they have absolute control over.
Not necessarily. Again, what I was saying is that, let me be even more clear. Yep. When you use the legal apparatus to go after your political opponent, that is acting like a dictator.
In what way?
Because there's a dissident, Donald Trump, that's about to encroach on your power, and you're cheating. You are using what should be impartial justice as a way to favor.
as a way to give yourself an advantage.
So, how was the justice impartial when the warrants used to search his Mar-a-Lago mansion were in fact issued by an impartial, neutral judge?
Okay, search warrants are very different than indictments, but we shouldn't be searching Trump's residence in the first place. Former presidents should be off limits, period. Unless they're doing something, I don't know, like flying to Epstein's Island, then you actually don't get anything wrong that happens to you. So it's like, the point being is that we shouldn't be going after former presidents.
Well, can former presidents not engage in corruption then?
Of course they are, but we didn't go after Bill Clinton on the Clinton Crime Initiative for this exact example. It sets a bad precedent.
Well,
we didn't go after Bill Clinton for Epstein Island for this reason because it sets a bad precedent.
Shouldn't we set a good precedent, though, by going after the former presidents who are in fact corrupt?
No, actually, because almost every president is corrupt, and we as a country have never done this before. We basically say these are largely off limits because it will be so divisive and destructive. People want to know why the country's so divided. They tried to put Donald Trump in prison for half a century. What does that do to the country? It's an insult to all of us. As if, oh, you guys are going to have a voice. So sorry, we're going to go lock him up in prison. It doesn't take a lot of schooling to know that that's cheating. That's unfair. That is not playing by the rules.
Well, to be fair, right? Like, it's not necessarily not playing by the rules because it wasn't Biden himself that issued that order. It was a Biden appointed
his
judge.
person. No. It was Merrick Garland that orchestrated the whole thing. And Merrick Garland reported to who? To Joe Biden.
Yeah, but they still have their own unique opinions and ideas.
Merrick Garland cannot do something that's not in harmony with the president, period.
Well, no, that's not true because judges are supposed to be impartial.
Not judges. DOJ. He's the Attorney General of the United States.
But that's still like that's someone who's supposed to be impartial. And
no. The AG is not impartial. That's not true. The AG is the top law enforcement officer of a president. The president can order cases to be dropped, increased, decreased.
That's the thing is the Department of Justice can't have an opinion on a case, but the president can stop the case, right? Like the president has power to put things to an end, but he doesn't have the power to start things within the DOJ.
Yes, he does. You're wrong. He just did that with Miles Taylor. That's not correct. The president, the full authority over the Attorney General's office. DOJ is completely under the authority of the President of the United States. It's not its own branch. It's not. But by the way, tell me what branch of government is it then? What article of the Constitution the DOJ
judicial
under?
branch.
No, it's not actually.
Yeah,
it's an article.
Department of Justice.
Dude, you understand? The DOJ is in Article 2. Okay, the judicial branch is in Article 3. How many articles of the Constitution are there?
Hell if I remember. Dude.
Yes, 7. Right, exactly. So. The judicial branch is Supreme Court, District Court, Circuit Court. The Department of Justice is the law enforcement of the second article, the executive branch. That is why the president appoints the head of the Department of Justice.
But that's the thing, though, is justice is blind, right? Justice is supposed to be neutral. So in a department that's supposed to be neutral, to adequately distribute justice to people who deserve it, right? Is it not wrong to try and press charges on a former president, and then if it comes out that they're innocent, then it's just all said and done? I mean, Trump's trial didn't get him put in prison for the rest of his life,
because the trial never actually came to fruition. Again, I don't even know what we're debating here. It's hard to kind of take what you're saying seriously because you don't even know the branches of government, to be honest. So it's like, let me just make this as simple as possible. They tried to prevent Trump from being president by putting him in a prison cell. That is wrong and it should never happen again. Thank you very much. Let's get to the next question.